The best ball community is the best community in fantasy football. I'm Chris the Candyman. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Garage. Tonight, you already know what time it is. We're drafting best ball teams with an extra special guest for you. I have Steve from the FanSpeak Network. He's going to come on, drop some knowledge on us. We're going to draft a few best ball teams, get in on the fun, get in on the drafts. You're going to want to be here all best ball summer long. Let's kick it to the intro. But overall, it's like the guy can ball, like actions speak louder than words. What's going on, everyone? What is going on this Thursday night? How we doing? What up, Dale, GM, Bendels, Jason? How you doing, my man? Got Nick Bach in the chat. It's all popping off. Thursday night in the garage, and it's going to be a banger. If you remember, Steve came on with Meg and Emo Cowboy last Friday during the 4-hour mega draftathon stream. And man, we had a killer draft. Actually, I want to pull that one up. Steve's going to be here any moment now. He's coming from his own stream. Make sure, if you're new, if you're not already subscribed to the FanSpeak Network, link in the description. Get involved. A lot of really sharp ball knowers over there, and we're going to get some knowledge dropped on us tonight. So I'm excited for that. I want to check out that eliminator. It's the only eliminator I've done to date, and I want to review it with Steve when it comes on. If you guys remember this team, Underzet was there, Hartman was there. We have the Huron River Rat in the 12 spot. We're drafting it from the 2. And we started off with Saquon, Josh Jacobs, JSN, Hampton. So a pretty running back heavy start. 3 out of the first 4 picks were running backs. What up, Al Boog? How you doing, Anthony? Hey, if y'all didn't catch it, Best Ball on Call dropped a new stream, a new draft stream this morning at the break of dawn. Go check it out. And looking forward to more of that. But appreciate y'all all being here. Make sure you're subscribed. Go ahead and hit the like. If you're going to be drafting tonight, let us know your underdog username in the chat. And like I said, Steve's coming on real soon, and then we're going to jump into some drafts. But this is that draft we did last Friday night. It's the only eliminator I've done so far. I did it with Steve, Meg, and Emo Cowboy. And let's take a look at this team build. Let's get into it a little bit before he gets here, just to get familiar. So when he shows up, we know what we're talking about. 3-5-7-3 for the eliminator contest. I think that's safe, but we're not really playing to be safe. We're playing for a high floor and going for the high ceiling. You gotta score big every week in those head-to-head matchups. A bit of pod luck, but you gotta swing big. I think a way to do that, we saw Chase Brown was on the winning team from last year. Joe Burrow, Jared Goff. So you're gonna want some stacks, maybe skinny stacks. You're gonna want running backs that can take over a backfield. In this one, we've got Dak, Geno, and Darnold. I do remember in this room, quarterbacks were flying off the shelves, right? So we kind of had to make some things work. And we took Saquon and Josh Jacobs with our first 2 picks, Hampton, Scatabo, and then Justice Hill. So 5 running backs, hoping that Saquon can get it started right. Either Saquon and Josh Jacobs, really to get the season going, advance out of week 1. Hopefully we all do. There's 6 of us in this room. Hopefully we all advance out of week 1. And then we get into our head-to-heads. We've got Hampton and Scatabo for the late season upside. Justice Hill, you never know when you're going to need him. Maybe get some leverage against the Derrick Henry teams. And considering we've got Saquon and Josh Jacobs, that could be nice. So with Darnold, we have JSN. The Cortland Sutton and the Diggs team picks, they feel good. They feel all right on this team. Myers stacked up, Burden for upside. I think Bateman at pick 143 is a bargain. Can't argue with that. Turpin on this one. It's a little disappointing now with the news around George Pickens, of course. We talked about it last night and on the stream. But it could be worse. I mean, it could be a lot stronger, I think, at wide receiver than this. So that's something to improve on. Kelsey, Ertz, Otten. Looking back at it, I think we could have stuck with just Ertz and Otten. Ditched Kelsey and taken some upside on a player like a Trey Harris. Maybe, who else goes in that range? It could have been, if we look at the board. Give me one sec. And we're back. The little princess came out of her room, wanted a kiss goodnight. Can't turn those down. But we're back at it. Your parents out there knows how it goes. It's a weeknight. Steve's going to be on real soon. They're wrapping it up. Let me finish saying what's up to everyone in the chat. We got Kelly listening in. Appreciate you being here, Kelly. Putt Daddy, what up? What up? Who are your picks for today? I was watching the leaderboard out of the corner of my eye at the Truist, at the Philadelphia. I guess they call it the cricket club. I want to say golf club, but the cricket club. And I noticed that Keith Mitchell and Denny McCarthy were kind of at the top the last I saw, and then a late surge looks like from Morikawa. So for my one and done, I took. Who did I take? I took Berger, and I don't see him up there. I think he was 4 under last time I looked. Let me find him. Anyone else following the Truist? Got your scramble drafts going? Yeah, Berger's all right. Tied 45th. Could be better. And then following the Truist, we're getting into the PGA Championship. Everyone looking to advance those Albatross teams. We're going to be talking Albatross advancement next week. Looking forward to it. I've got dozens of Albatross teams looking to get a few through to the next round. Who Hames in here? Put on a good show earlier. Of course, always Hartman. What's going on? RM Covers. Appreciate you being here. We got Tim D. Pickens is going to produce. My man. You know it. You know it. You're in the right place. If you think Pickens is going to produce, you're in the right place. We've been hyping Pickens up for weeks before the trade. Still loved him. James Young, the Sentry. How's it going tonight? How you guys doing? It's a Thursday night. What are you looking forward to this weekend? We got a new Pope. Is he White Sox or Cubs type of Pope? Makes a big difference in my book. Debo. Yeah, you're staring that one down, huh? The Debo pick. Could be. Pickens at 82. A lot changes. This was drafted 6 days ago, guys. A lot changes in 6 days. I started building out, if you've been here, the last couple streams, the last couple nights, I've built out, and I'll share it. Let me get into a better viewing experience. Maybe this one, this. Sorry for the blinding light. I don't know how to go dark mode in Google Sheets, but I've built out my own model. I've got my own rankings, my own tiers, and I've got my team comps. What I've added to it since last night was some team stats. How many passing touchdowns they had last season for the Cowboys. They had 23. That ranked 13th in the league compared to the Bengals. They had 43 passing touchdowns. They had 20 more, and they ranked number 1 in the league. So we've got our little comp tool. We're working on some stuff. And this is actually free for you. It's free. I'll give anyone access that DMs me on Twitter, can prove that they're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and they can use this little tool. And I built it for me. It's something that I do. I like to build models. I like to build out my own projections for fantasy football, but I'd love to share it with you, teach you how to use it. If you've been here the last couple of nights, you already know, but we're getting into it. And so my whole point of getting into that was I uploaded the ADP. I've got ADP in there from Monday. It's already completely out of whack, and it's only Thursday, and it's only May. It's going to be a long best ball summer. You're going to want to be here for it. Make sure you're subscribed. Tune in. Let's bring on Steve. Let's do it. And then I got to hit the... Yeah, we're good. Steve's ready. Boom. Boom. Oh, close enough. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, Thursday night. Getting ready for a weekend. And just been drafting, man. I know you're doing a little bit of the same. Caught the stream earlier today, and just wrapping that up. Looked good. Those were puppies, or was it anything else?
Yeah, we did. We ripped 2 20-second puppies. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. On the screen here, I don't know if you recognize it or if you'd heard. We were looking at the eliminator that we drafted here in the Fantasy Football Garage last Friday when you were on with Meg, Emo Cowboy.
Nice. Yeah, Saquon start.
Yep.
Jacobs and Hampton. Yeah. No, I think we did that team pretty well. Got the stacks. Got the robust running back build to start. I think that is definitely going to be the way to play the eliminator this year. Sure, you're going to need to get lucky, but it's like let's make some of our own luck. Is the way I look at it.
No doubt. The funniest thing about this team, well, I guess the sad thing about it is Pickens went pick 81 in this draft. And we have none other than Kavontae Turpin, the man of the week on this team. My only share of them, I'm sure. I'm sure. But, it's not a bad squad. I was reviewing it with the chat. I think the receivers could be better, but the running backs are powerful.
Yeah. And I think with the receivers, look, we don't need those chase 40-point weeks or stuff like that. Like, yeah, if we run up against a team that has chase in a 40-point week, we're screwed. But running backs give much more consistent 10-point games, 15-point games, 20-point games than receivers. And I just think that's so key to do, because we just kind of need to be winning these 50-50s, and then they're coin flips. So we don't know what we're up against, but I think that's the way you build it.
I love it. I'm excited for the eliminator. I'm excited to get more of them going.
Yeah, I haven't done any. Meg and I did one together, but I haven't done any others. We're just waiting for the schedule.
Right. Of course, we've got 6 days to go.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your thoughts, and you, before we get into our draft, and I know everyone's waiting to get in, we'll do it real soon. You answered correctly on Twitter today. You're one of the responses to my question. I've been throwing these out. I've been obsessed with Player Profiler's new metric they introduced this year based on the 2024 stats. It's the EPX. And I think, who knows how correlated EPX will be to best ball, winning in best ball, but I think it's directionally a good place to start, and it helps me to test out some hypothesis around players that I either like or don't like or think are good or not for best ball. I'm not going to ask you to explain the metric and go into details of whether or not you love it or hate it, but what are your thoughts just seeing DJ Moore in this kind of light?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't shock me that Moore's explosive rate was not great last year because that offense with Shane Waldron and then the coaching changes and all that. I mean, it was just a mess. I do think he clearly has more juice, more game. And what I will say, I like player profiler in general.
Yeah,
Like you said, this is a new metric. Not sure how correlated it is. Obviously, explosive plays help with spike weeks, and that's why Moore probably wasn't too high. He had a lot of above average weeks, but not a lot of like massive spike weeks.
that's
And
a good point. One of the things that stood out to me as I did my research on DJ Moore today, and I'm trying to test things out. Why is DJ Moore potentially a bad pick in best ball? We know he can spike and he can win you a week, but one of the things was in half PPR scoring, he had 4 games as a top 24 wide receiver out of 17 games that he played,
yeah,
which really surprised me.
yeah, no,
The floor is so low with him.
and that's the thing. And some of that is the product of last year's offense, but some could be this year because even though Keenan Allen's gone, the competition's actually better. And Dunze into the second year,
Yes.
Burden, who I was very bullish on pre-draft, and Colson Loveland, and Komet's not exactly gone. Like, I don't think Komet is fantasy viable for like best ball and stuff like that, but
Right.
Komet's going to be better than most teams' number 2 tight ends. So, there's a threat there. I still am taking some more, but I've moved them down the ranks with the Burden and Loveland picks. I was taking them a lot more in pre-draft, but now I've moved them down to like the 40s.
No doubt. I just wanted to check in to see. I think I've got him in the 40s as well. Let's find the Bears on here. There it is.
Right? Yeah.
So I've got DJ Moore ranked. So my ranks over here. I have my own tiers, my own ranks. I've got actually him ranked at 51. I'm a big fade on DJ Moore. I think it's pretty aggressive, but Colston Loveland was a name you mentioned. I've got him ranked a little bit ahead of ADP, and I'm going to keep moving him down ahead of ADP. I think Loveland was one of the best fits for some of the offensive skill position players in the entire draft. I think going to the Bears could be really nice for him.
Yeah, and I just wrote up for we just launched the best ball Substack for FanSpeak, and I just wrote up the rookie tight ends today. And Loveland is my number 1 rookie tight end, and he was the number 1 drafted. But even if Warren had say gone to the Jets, Loveland at that landing spot is just so perfect. And we just saw Ben Johnson take a rookie tight end 2 years ago in Sam Laporta and make him tight end 1 in fantasy. And you say, oh, there's more competition here for the Bears that we just talked about, but they took Loveland 10th overall. And this is Ben Johnson taking him. DJ Moore, he's inheriting DJ Moore. And that's why some people are questioning it a little bit more because of the comments he made. Like, I want to see what a receiver does when he doesn't have the ball, which is very ironic because that was the whole Burden thing. Like, Burden is not, if he's not getting the ball, he's not happy. But they chose Burden. They didn't necessarily choose DJ Moore. I know the GM did, but Ben Johnson didn't. So just something to keep in mind. Is it going to shock me if DJ Moore is a good fantasy player with Ben Johnson? No, because I think Ben Johnson is a great coach, and if he motivates his guys, gets them going, I think Caleb is in line for a breakout. We're going to have, I think multiple Bears are going to be, big time fantasy winners this year.
Well said. I wanted to share this with the chat.
Thank you.
You guys know, but if you haven't heard, big news from the FanSpeak Network. They've got their best ball subscription live. You're going to want to check it out. A lot of good stuff there, good articles, rankings, and more. So make sure you check it out. We appreciate Steve for coming on tonight. And we're going to be getting into the draft real soon. The last thing I want to share, let me add this back to the stage. Boom. This is Jamison Williams, the other player I was comparing to DJ Moore. Now, this to me looks like a very appetizing best ball profile. Jamison Williams only played in 15 games last season. He had more than one explosive play, which would be a 20-yard plus catch. So across those 15 games, he had 20 of them. His EPX, which is a per play rating, he's number 11 across all of the wide receivers. So 100 would be average. He's well above average. Very explosive player. And when I looked at his half PPR scoring, he had, I'm going to have to look at my Twitter to pull it up. I think it was it was more than that. Let me get the definitive number from my Twitter real quick. So he only played 15 games, and he had 7 out of 15 games as a top 24 wide receiver. So almost 50%.
No, I believe it. And Jameson Williams, they also used him in the run game. They'd give him carries. And this is the one question, obviously, not just Ben Johnson leaving, but Engstrom leaving, Antoine Randall. A lot of coaches gone, but Detroit's still promoted from within. I don't know why you change a good thing. That offense was top 5 in both scoring and yards the last 3 years. They would be crazy to change anything. Jameson Williams is a big play weapon, a perfect complement to Amon-Ra and Laporta. Like, it's just so the way they were built, the way they drafted, the way they were built was just chef's kiss. And we saw JMO finally. He was injured as a rookie. Second year, had the gambling suspension and all that. But and it took him a while to get going. But now this guy is just should be wheels up. I'm taking a lot of JMO, still taking a lot of Detroit. And this is what we're hoping with the Bears. And like you just said, like Amon-Ra was one of the top receivers last year, but JMO is still popping these games. We know Gibbs. When Gibbs and Montgomery through the first 14 weeks, I believe they were both top 14 running backs. That's it. Amazing.
Right.
And then of course Monty goes down and Gibbs just goes nuts the last 3 games. And so it just shows the potential and power of this offense. We're hoping Ben Johnson does the same thing in Chicago. And right now he doesn't have the running back. So it might actually be all pass catchers that go off.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought that piece of it through. It's a great point. The Lions were the top scoring team last season. They could support Jameson Williams with these down the sideline big plays that also very well complemented Amon-Ra. And I need to figure out how to get Jameson Williams higher in my ranks. I want to get him into the late 30s, but I don't, right now I have him just around ADP or one spot or so. So maybe the early 40s could be a good spot for him. I know DK's moving up. Pickens is moving up. I still like Zay Flowers. I still like Devonta Smith. I need to figure out how to get Jameson Williams higher in my ranks, but it's really tough, especially with those elite QBs kind of trickling out of that back end of that range, right? The 3 and the 4 rounds 3 and 4. So yeah. What do you also, before we get to this draft, what do you think about the Cowboys potentially kind of replicating what the Lions are doing? They've got Amon-Ra, they've got CeeDee, they've got Jameson Williams, they've got Pickens. I mean, they're lacking the entire run game component of it, which is actually probably the biggest key part of it. But it seems like from a passing situation, this could be one of Dak's better seasons coming up.
No, and we just saw this 2 years ago with the Cowboys. It's not like Tony Pollard was coming off the injury, so he's just kind of very mid. And Dak finishes QB 4 or 5. CeeDee, obviously the monster year, was ended up wide receiver 1. But Brandon Cooks had 8 touchdowns, had a good year. Ferguson had a big year; he had 7 or 8 touchdowns. So they could absolutely be replicating that. And Brian Schottenheimer. I mentioned this on my show, Sibling Showdown. Is I think everyone thinks that Brian Schottenheimer is just this guy who wants to run the ball 40 times a game. That wasn't the case. It hasn't been the case so far with the Cowboys, and it wasn't the case, honestly, with Seattle. Like he was letting Russ cook a little bit more than people were giving him credit for. And I believe it was Ryan Heath from Fantasy. What does he write for? Scott Barrett's website. I'm blanking on it, but Ryan Heath on Twitter talked about this, and and just really laid it out. That their pass rate is better than
Fantasy points.
expected.
Fantasy points.
Fantasy points. Thank you.
Yeah,
They're
I
great.
knew
Great
those
site.
too.
And it's just, to me, it's following the money. Like they're paying Dak $55 million. They're paying CD one of the highest receiver rates, and then they just trade for Pickens. They really like Ferguson. I know there was talking about making him an extension. And even if Ferguson goes down, Luke Schoonmaker last year showed that he can produce as well as in the receiving game. So I just think they're built to be a passing team.
Yeah.
And also their defense 2 years ago, their defense was still really good. They've lost obviously the coach who's now coaching in Washington. But they've lost a lot of pieces. Their defense is no longer this elite unit. And back then in 2022, in 2023, their defense also produced so many defensive touchdowns. The one corner had like 4 touchdown returns on his own, and they had like 7 or 8 on the year. If those aren't happening, those now become offensive drives. So, it's just, we think about that when we say, oh, our quarterback just threw a pick 6. That's actually good for our quarterback because now he's behind. Now he has to throw more. But it's actually bad for your quarterback. If you have a quarterback and that defense just takes the ball, gets that pick 6 or fumble recovery, then you just lost a drive. And Dak was still quarterback 5, 4 or 5.
Yeah. That's interesting. I got to think more about that. And this offseason, I know it's early in the best ball season. I'm making it a point to do some more research, understand kind of what has changed and what has remained the same on a lot of these teams, whether it's their offensive scheme, players they're bringing in from the draft, that kind of thing. And I think, anything we can do to get an edge in our best ball drafts and just have a little bit of a better idea of which way the wind's blowing with coaches' decisions around starting players, whether it's an ambiguous backfield or if we think there's competition from these rookies, like we were just talking about with DJ Moore and what's his role going to be. It's not the same coaching staff that brought him over. So that's one thing I want to do. I made a note of getting and sitting down and doing some reading. And I know that the FanSpeak Network is a great place to go and to read about strategy for best ball, the best ball articles, and all the work that you do on your channel as well. So I'm excited for what's next for y'all and your big announcement today with the subscription. What do you say we get into a draft? You ready?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I'm thinking, I was thinking 30-second puppy. Let's just see how it feels.
Okay.
I think with the chat's help, we shouldn't have any problems.
Except for Underdog, the location.
Except for Underdog's location error. So I might have to just join this one from my phone, and I'm going to join it real quick so that if you all already joined it, just stay there. Let me get into this 30-second puppy off my phone. It'll show up in my active drafts. Apologize. I thought Underdog had fixed this. We hadn't had any issues for like the last week or two. I'm joining the 30-second puppy from my phone right now. There's one more to start. So if you were in the room that I tried to join, I think we made it. One more to start for a 30-second puppy. A little workaround there. A little streamer magic.
No. And it seems to be like we've had that before in streams, and it's just like it could take weeks to happen again, but it will for sure happen when you're on a stream.
I'm surprised. It's not my area of expertise, but I'm surprised how often there's little glitches on the desktop interface. So the phone always works well. Maybe the pick clock skips ahead of sometimes it's pretty rare, but I've opened up my phone app before and it skips ahead 10 seconds and all of a sudden I have 1 second left and so that happens very rarely. So I'll give them that. But the desktop application, Underdog, get your shit together.
It's one of the few weaknesses of Underdog.
I know they're great. I love them. I reached out to their support. They've tried everything they can do to help. And we love all of our friends that work over at Underdog and have linked up with them over the years. In this draft room, I see a lot of familiar names. We got, of course, the famous Huron River Rat. Papa Bray, I recognize. Say what's up if you're in the chat. Let us know your YouTube name, Papa Bray. Appreciate you being here. Hames, the world famous Who Hames. We've got Hartman in the 6th spot. You know him, you love him. We got Coolers in the 8. Always good to see you in the chat. Fantasy Dog.
Tim
Just
D.
number 10.
Tim D. in the 9 is from.
Oh, and Tim D. I did see Tim D in the chat. Appreciate you being here, Tim D. Yes, very good, very good. Yeah, I think what do you? Let's look at the fill. Let's look at the fill on this one. I'll look it up from my phone actually, just so I can reference it. When do you think this first puppy could close? It was only 28%.
Yeah.
But again, this is May. What is today? May 8th. So,
my guess is I think the fill rate picks up after the schedule release because I think there are a lot of people who, especially if those who are going to max it or come close, like maybe they're fine doing 30 now, but they're not. They're going to limit their total exposure, and just in general, there's going to be more buzz and all that. So I think honestly, probably a week after the schedule, like by May 21st, I wouldn't be surprised if this is filled.
Yeah, you're right about the schedule coming along. Right now, it's still kind of early into playoff basketball. Some people are still focused on that. They might not have switched over to football yet. So just a lot of other things that can come together. We're in the 11th spot. Who have you been drafting lately out of the 1-2 turn?
In the back end here, I love it. It's either like Genty's still there or one of these receivers. I'm trying to get two of those. And if I still get, like whether it's Bowers or McCaffrey, I'm fine with that as well. So, and Henry, I'm very bullish on Henry in the comeback portion of it. So yeah, I think all these guys are really good. I'm fine anything here. I'd probably lean the receiver, either Amon-Ra or Thomas.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like I have just a bit more Thomas at the moment than Amon-Ra, and I it's been a while since I've drafted some Amon-Ra. I want to go ahead and start there, and then we'll see what comes back around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, man, it does seem like a bargain for McCaffrey. When have we ever been able to draft McCaffrey in the 2nd round?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to go McCaffrey?
I kind of do. Yeah. I think we know enough about the tight end landscape right now. You were talking earlier about the late round values on tight ends. They are starting to move up, but there's still a lot of good tight ends with guaranteed roles as a primary receiving tight end in their offense that their situation didn't really change from last year, and they go rounds 14 plus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at somebody like Zach Ertz. I think he finished tight end 7 last year. He was Jaden Daniels' guy, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs. So there's no fall off. People worry about the age cliff. They re-signed him, gave him good starting money again. I think it's rinse and repeat. Mike Gesicki last year, they re-signed him to a 3-year deal. And we heard Joe Burrow at the Super Bowl. He said, I want Jamar back, I want T back, and I want Mike back. And guess what? They did all 3. I think people maybe were wrongly believing that Gesicki's spike was only with when Higgins was out. And I think that's a little unfair to it. Sure, his 2 touchdown games, so his most massive week was without Higgins, but he actually saw his snap count, his routes, his target share, catches all go up when Eric All left and was injured. And All is going to be out all season. Those is like the final 7 games, 7-8 games. And of those, Higgins was played all but one of those. So yes, he didn't have any touchdowns. His only 2 touchdowns came in that 1 2-touchdown game. But that's what separates him. You look at his targets, his receptions, his yards, almost the exact same as like Freiermuth and Ertz. All 3 had very similar baseline stats. It's just touchdowns were different. Ertz had the most, Freiermuth the next, and Gesicki only had the 2. Well, what happens if Gesicki has 6 or 7 this year? He's just going to smash.
It's a great offense to be a part of. Joe Burrow's going to, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of approach.
Yeah.
It's Burrow. He can only produce through the air. He's not going to be running the ball. It's a safe bet. Grab anyone. That's why you see people taking players who, no offense, but players who aren't any good, like Yoshivas. He's not good, but he plays for the Bengals, so he gets touchdowns. And he might have a little knack for catching touchdowns, but he's not really a good receiver. You want the wide receiver 3 on a Joe Burrow team. It reminds me of back in the day when we were drafting the wide receiver 3 and 4 on a Drew Brees Saints offense for our redraft leagues. You'd want anyone that's attached to Drew Brees because he's going to throw the ball a ton.
Yeah. And like you said, Yoshi, he's the wide receiver 3, and he did have this kind of touchdown role last year. Well, what if those go to Gesicki this year? That's kind of the bet you're making. And because Gesicki was 3rd in the team in targets, I believe. So why not?
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And there's just a lot of these guys. Brenton Strange is another one. Even later, guys like Jawan Johnson or Theo Johnson are pretty locked into their starting roles, and you're getting them 17th, 18th round easy.
That's a good point. You said Theo Johnson at the end there?
Yeah.
That's one. And what do you think about Russell Wilson? Do you think he will hold down the job for most of the season? Are you thinking Dart's got to take over at some point, kind of like a la Drake May 2024?
Yeah, dude, I like Tet here. Tet or Travis is where I'd go, but
I need to get some Travis. Should we just pull him up and
do Hunter? Yeah,
let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and then we could target like some middle tier quarterbacks, whether it's Purdy with McCaffrey, Goff, Lawrence, get 2 of them. At least one. It gives us a lot of outs there. And don't get me wrong, I like Bryce Young as well as a later guy. But you were asking, I'm sorry, about
Theo Johnson.
And Russell
Wilson.
Yeah. So I look at it. I don't think it would be just like the Drake May thing. I think it's probably going to be closer to. I think Russ probably gets between 8 and 10 games is kind of how I see it. And we've seen that before. That was kind of, the Kenny Pickett situation. And we've just seen some other ones kind of in that realm. I'm good with Ted here. I don't know about you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anytime Josh Allen's there, I always consider it. We don't have to do it. I think we can go ahead and take a receiver here. I'm pretty. We'll have to talk about this because I know most people don't agree with me, and I'm a Longhorn, so it's hard for me to do it. But I've got Worthy a whole entire round ranked behind where he goes right now, and it's tough. It's tough to say that, but I don't know. I think there's some competition. Rashee Rice comes back healthy. I think Rice is the number 1 wide receiver in that room. I don't think it's Worthy, but I'd love to hear more from you since if you want to jump to that topic, I'd love to hear more from you and kind of help me understand why people think that both Rice and Worthy can pay off in this range.
So the way I look at it is, people talked about early season last year, Rashee Rice, he's getting the Travis Kelce work, and that's why he's having these couple big games. And that's fair. But if so, why can't Worthy take that Tyreek Hill work? And we've seen that both work before. And sure, early on, Worthy wasn't doing that, but he was a rookie. And we always talk about the post-bye rookie bump. And for Worthy, it was really like weeks 9 or 10. So it was like after their bye, I believe. But yeah, it's just a lot of these rookies, they hit late is the whole point. Whether the bye's week 5 or week 10, it's more about, we know rookies for the second half of the year. And we saw that the thing with Worthy, we then see that throughout the playoffs, even in the Super Bowl. Like, sure, they probably should have been throwing deep to Worthy earlier in the Super Bowl and earlier in the season, but we know that upside is there. And I know Worthy doesn't always have the best metrics about coming down with these deep passes, but to me, so much of it is Mahomes. We know he has the arm talent, and he just got to get on the same page as the guy. And we've seen it before. Like when he had MVS there, MVS was getting open, and Mahomes would hit him. It's just MVS couldn't catch the ball. Same with Justin Watson, same with these other guys. Worthy, I think, is much better at that. I'm just a big believer, and they can just utilize him in a lot of creative ways. I think both can pay off. The other thing I'd just say with Rice is, and I'm not against Rice, but I think people are extrapolating those 3 games at a time when Hollywood was out, Worthy was a young rookie, and Kelce just got off to a slow start, which one would expect. He's 35 years old, 36 years old, whatever it is. Would Rice have had those numbers if he went through the entire year? I'm sure he would have been the wide receiver one. I don't question that, but I don't think we can count on that pace, is what I'm saying. Because Kelce would have ended up getting his on some level, maybe not the 800 plus yards that he got, and probably what you're taking is that Noah Gray production that he had. That's probably going to Rice's numbers and et cetera. But it is just a crowded room, and I still am going to believe in the young guys. But honestly, I still like Hollywood at his price, because the other thing we're betting on is Mahomes kind of bouncing back 2-3 years. Sure, if Mahomes did what he did last year, these guys aren't going to pay off. But if he does what we know Mahomes is capable of doing, and this is the best weapons, honestly, Mahomes has ever had in his career, because there's always just like Hill and Kelce, and then just kind of trash.
True. They've been investing in the wide receivers, the Rice pick, the Worthy pick.
Yeah, even depth now with we saw Juju have some games when he was healthy. Now Jalen Royals, like, they're at least deep now. They have Noah Gray, and that other young tight end behind Kelce. So I just think that, and with the uncertainty at running back, I think there is some reason to be bullish about Mahomes having to bounce back. So, and that was the one final thing I say: when you're drafting one of those guys, I'd then target Mahomes, because they're going to pay off at that price if Mahomes goes off.
You got to do it. Do you think here we could go more of a hero build and look for some of these other wideouts? It's kind of thin down. We might need to go running back.
I'm good with Walker Hubbard or even Harvey. I don't mind pulling them up, and this is kind of where you have them. And that's roughly where I have them. I have them ranked, I think, 62. So let's go Harvey, actually. I think that's a fun pick.
Let's do it. I haven't clicked Harvey since the day Best Ball Mania opened, that Monday over a week ago. And I've been wanting to click him again. At UCF, when I look at those game logs, it's just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
I mean,
and then I'd go back and I'd look at
off the charts.
Yes, I'd look at other teams. I'd look at other rookies, and then, oh wait, they played UCF a year or two ago, and then you see Harvey scores 3 touchdowns in that game. He's just a touchdown merchant.
I'm good with either another running back, and I actually like that. I'm pretty bullish with starting kind of 3-3 or 3, this kind of build. So I actually like taking Henderson or Hubbard here.
I kind of want to lean Henderson. He has the pass catching upside. He's got potentially a slightly better offense than the Panthers, maybe.
Yeah.
So
sorry to interrupt.
No. Yeah. Please.
One thing I love, especially because these are like pass catching backs, is we are so wide open for stacks. We could take Purdy, McCaffrey, we could take Nix, Harvey, we could take May, Henderson, and maybe get another piece of it also. But I love this. Like, we have 6 viable stacks right now.
Maybe you could argue we take Chuba Hubbard there because we've already invested some draft capital into T-Mac, the Carolina build, that and everything. But Hubbard doesn't catch passes. It's not really his part of the game, right? And so maybe it's, they brought in Dowdle. Maybe he's not getting as much volume. I think he's still an efficient rusher, but I'd like to see what Travion can do.
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm a big believer that, people are down on May and Travion and stuff because they're saying, oh, the Patriots offense sucked last year. It did, but they went out and got Josh McDaniels. From Mike Vrabel, he is not going to tolerate poor play. They got some offensive linemen in the draft, a little in free agency. Morgan Moses, the man that feels live forever. But he's just a consummate, right tackle starter. I remember interviewing him at the Senior Bowl years ago, and he's just been a starter ever since. He's, exactly what you need. And so the offensive line is going to be better. Diggs, Kyle Williams, Henry, Henderson. The weapons aren't bad now for May. They're not elite, but they're not bad.
They're getting better. They're better than last year. How could you get worse than last year? Got a pretty savvy James Young in the chat saying, but Candyman, Hubbard averaged 41 receptions over the past 2 years. And what did he do with those receptions? Let's find out. It's a game I like to play called Is Chuba Hubbard Explosive? let's isolate this down. We know he's an explosive runner. At least we think he is. Maybe he might not be. Steve, is he explosive in the pass catching game?
I wouldn't say he's overly explosive in the pass catching game. I think he's like a floor play pass catcher.
He is one of the worst receiving running backs who starts in the NFL. He's above average as a rusher, James, but eat that. He's terrible. I don't care if he's getting 42 receptions. He didn't even have 200 receiving yards on 40 receptions. That's less than 5 yards a reception. Get this guy out of here. He needs the volume. He needs the attempts. He needs the touchdowns. Otherwise, he turns into a pumpkin, 10 points a game. You don't want that on your best ball team. Give me Travion.
Yeah, no, I Travion is the more upside play. So yeah,
Steve is cooking. I love having Steve on. Appreciate you being here.
Of course.
Again, you guys all know FanSpeak. You're subscribed to the channel. If you're new here, click the link in the description below. Subscribe to FanSpeak. They're coming out with some really good best ball content, and we're just getting started. The summer is just kicking off. Let's see. We have a pretty young team. We've taken 4 of the most exciting rookie picks. We're anchoring down with the veteran McCaffrey and Amon-Ra. In this range, I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and fingers crossed that we get a good blessing from Underdog there. We got it. Okay. Pick 83 followed by 86. To me, it's not the quarterback range yet, right? We're in the end of round 7, beginning of round 8. There's still a lot of good running back and receiver talents available. Who do you like here?
I would probably hit a receiver. I like Burden. I don't mind Reed. I'm a little lower on Mbuka.
Okay.
I just think, as much as I love Mbuka as a player,
Ayuk is there. Would you take Ayuk with McCaffrey or no?
No, I'm lower on Ayuk.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't mind taking him, but I think you need him in the right way. In almost always for me, it'd be an 8 wide receiver, 9 wide receiver build.
Would you consider going? Sorry, cut you off. Would you consider going 2 receivers with the next 2 picks, and we take Reed first, hoping Burden falls?
Yeah, I like that.
Or do you want to grab Burden?
Go Reed. Go Reed.
Okay. Because I was thinking we're on the same page that we might just get 5 receivers and then be in a good spot for the quarterback pocket and the late tight end that we've talked about. Yep. I have some confidence that people might want to take Kupp ahead of Burden. I don't know Brad's tendencies, but might get lucky. He takes Mooney. I think Mooney's a good pick as well.
Yeah,
I like
Mooney's a good pick. Mooney would be my fallback. There you go.
We called it.
That worked perfectly. And Mooney would have been my fallback. I think he's a great pick in this area. It's such a condensed passing attack. He was so good last year. We saw him good with Fields. Just his other years with Fields, he was either injured or team was just awful. So but I like us getting Reed and Burden.
Very nice.
Again, if any Caleb falls back to us, I don't think that'll happen, but just another potential stack option. Jordan Love presents another stack option. So I love kind of what you said. We're now hitting this quarterback range, and we basically have the pick of the litter. Like we're could stack with any one of these guys coming up.
Steve, is this a puppy draft on Underdog, or is this a dynasty rookie draft? We've taken Burden, Henderson, Harvey. We've got Travis Hunter and McMillan. We've probably traded every future first we ever could have and to invest in this draft here, it seems like. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if I've heard you talk much about dynasty, but are you in a couple of dynasty leagues? What's your dynasty takes?
I'm only in one dynasty league now. Okay. I actually had the draft. It'll be tomorrow night starting, and we get together and kind of play poker, draft.
Oh, so it's people you know.
Yeah.
That's the best.
The one I'm still in now.
That is the best for dynasty. These anonymous dynasty leagues online. If you're a volume dynasty player, I understand the necessity, but dynasty with people you know is so much better.
Yeah. And so I have the 108 and 112 and then the 211. I actually finished in second, but I'd flipped picks with the 12 spot early in the season. So we ended up, being back to back.
Kind of a wash.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wait, so you said, hey, let's swap picks. I think your team's going to suck more than mine. And then You guys got first and second?
Yep.
That's hilarious. I've never heard of that. It happened the very first year in 2020 of one of my dynasty leagues, and I'm not in that many, but it's guys that I know, and they're kind of having a little bit of, they're being very contentious. And he's okay, let's swap our first round picks then. Like, let's bet on it. Is the first year of the league. And one of the guys ends up getting the 102 out of it, and the other guy's at like 108 or 9. Like, it was it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And so that's risky.
Yeah. So I did it. I got it as part of I got Rico Dowdle, and like right before the season, or maybe week 1, I need more running back help. And so I got Rico Dowdle, and I, added some extra later picks to help balance it out. But he was like, he actually thought I was going to be better because I was getting Rico,
really?
but he went on a run, and so he had a really good.
That's nice. Yeah, it makes more sense if it's part of a trade. When you just do it heads up 1 for 1, it's kind of like it
wasn't
going after the guy.
we both knew we were probably playoff teams, and so we were just kind of banking on that.
No doubt. As I think about our next pick, there's a logical choice. We could go for quarterback. Brock Purdy's off the board. We saw Caleb go off the board. A few have gone. Justin Fields, which I'd like to get a little bit more exposure. Justin Fields, I think I have him ranked right about where he goes right now, and I'm just not getting him as much as I want to. I'm also not taking Garrett Wilson as much as I should, so I probably need to move Garrett Wilson up as well. Would you want to try to – let's see what Brad's got. Brad –
got a tight end already. I don't know if he'd go Loveland.
I don't know if he'll go Loveland, but he would take Goff with Laporta, wouldn't he?
So let's take Goff and hope we get Loveland.
Anytime I can remember to look at the drafter inside the turn of me, or even if there's 2 of them, if I can remember to do that when we get to the onesie positions, it usually pays off. If we would have forgotten or ignored that he took Laporta there, it could have been catastrophic. Although I will say we still have some other outs later on.
Yeah. No, I like how this draft is shaping up for sure. And like you said, taking advantage of the 30-second timer to be able to look at it, and just we can kind of guess what this guy's doing.
I'm not crazy. I like Zach Charbonnet. I've been a fan of him since he came into the league from UCLA. I thought he always could be a workhorse. Luckily, we don't have to worry about it too much. But is there any other consideration we should make here before we just take Colston Loveland?
The only other consideration would be potentially double tapping quarterback, but we don't have to. It'd be a reach for any of the other guys. So we can hope
it would be Love, and it's kind of a reach. Otherwise, I think we can push
Love or May. But that's the thing. That's the good thing about having multiple options.
You want to take May?
No, I say we take Loveland because
I like Loveland a lot.
But the point I was making is because we set ourselves up to have so many different options. Like even if Love and May both get taken, there's Lawrence, there's Bryce Young later. Like we are not going to be boxed out of stacks.
No doubt, 100%. Did you hear that?
No.
It was an echo coming from round 4 where we took T-Mac. Hit the T-Mac clip. Oh, man. Yeah. It's so easy to make him look good. His stats are good. He looks good in his highlights. He played in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and then you've lost me. The competition wasn't great. He he's stunting on New Mexico State and Texas Tech and other teams that, aren't going to have NFL defensive players from those schools. So the devil's advocate, could he be a bust?
What I will say, I think I've been covering the draft for 12 plus years, and I don't think this is one of the, I don't know why the draft community just thought T-Mac's bad. He's a pick in the 20s. And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, yeah, he's not Neighbors or Harrison or even a Dunze, but he's kind of right behind that group. And yeah, I didn't understand all along. I think Carolina made the good choice. I thought all along it'd go to like Dallas at 12. Apparently they wanted him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think he can be a stud. And even if he's not like that elite, the Mike Evans, who, he gets comped to with a certain similar body type, he's going to be very good. I think he's at worst a very good number 2 receiver with major touchdown equity.
I don't know why people are out on him too. They're like, oh, he's a big receiver. We're tired of that archetype.
Yeah.
He can do it all. He can yards after catch, the spin move, the sideline, the comebacks. You saw what he did against it was a UCF defender in the end zone there, and then he throws him into the shadow realm when he one hand catches it. So we have Love come back. We also have Trevor Lawrence. Do you think our bet on Hunter is so strong that we should take Lawrence?
I would do Lawrence
over Love, and then maybe we can. What has Brad got? Brad would take Lawrence ahead of us.
He's got Brian Thomas.
So but again, there's Kraft there. Would we want to? Nah, let's take Lawrence, right?
Yeah, let's take Lawrence. Like I like Love and I like LaFleur, but boy, I like Liam Cohen. I mean, you look at what he did with Baker and that group, and everyone got injured for Baker last year, and Baker still just a monster year. Evans, McMillan, and Otten all missed 3 to 4 games. Godwin missed half the season. Didn't stop Baker from throwing 40 touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't know that we need a running back, but it's round 12. It's getting later.
What's receiver? Anything? Yeah. No.
It's pretty thin, right?
Yeah.
We go to tight end and take a Kraft. Although he's not. I mean, we do have some Packers, right? We've got
Kraft. I actually like taking Kraft here, and then we're still kind of betting on Love getting. We're getting a lot of the Green Bay passing still.
Yeah,
which I think they're going to be a good offense.
Did you happen to see Ian Hardett's tweet? And it was about the percentage of fantasy points that came from the. Oh, yeah. Did you see that one? Yeah. He had the quarterbacks, and he had a break. I think it was PPR, but still, or no, it doesn't matter if it's quarterbacks. Yeah. But the running backs, it does. The quarterbacks, from my memory, and I can pull it up on my phone. I think Jordan Love was 90% from his passing and 10% from his rushing, and he was one of the most unbalanced, among.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And part of that was obviously got injured early, and then that kind of limited his rushing. But yeah, they just haven't overly relied on his rushing. And I think that was honestly part of the reason they invest in Josh Jacobs is they want Love to be in the pocket and let Jacobs do all the rushing work. So yeah, no, I like the Packers offense. They do spread around, but I don't mind getting 2 good pieces from it. I think it's going to be, in the mix of a top 10 offense for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't like, sure, if somehow Love comes back to us, we can take him, but I don't mind taking 2 pieces because it's just a good team correlation for a good offense.
Definitely. I agree with all of that. What you said is what I try to do in my drafts. Even if I don't have Love, I want pieces of a good offense. And like you were saying, can they be a high? Last year they were one of the highest scoring offenses last year in total points. And then if I'm just looking on my phone right here, I got Jordan Love at actually 94% of his fantasy points from the passing. Only 6% was from his rushing. So that has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got 2 of those pass catchers.
And it's even better when you can do multiple receivers and not the quarterback, but it's even better when it's a receiver and tight end because Reed can have a top 24 fantasy week and Kraft can have a top 12 fantasy week, probably pretty fairly frequently. it's just harder for like two receivers to both go off the same week.
That's a good point too. And I know you are a draft expert. You are. One question from, I don't know how to say the name, but
Chiado.
How you doing tonight, Chiado? I like the profile pic. Would you take T-Mac or Marvin Harrison? And this is just, who is he better? What would you say?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's better. Look, I know people are down on Marvin Harrison, and I know if you look at like targets per route run and some metrics like that, it's negative. But let's just look at the raw numbers for a second. He had over 800 receiving yards, or 800, 900 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's good for a rookie. You put that up against every rookie, and like it or not, they did have an elite target earner on that team in McBride. I think this year, sophomore breakout for receivers, we see it all the time. I think Harrison could be the number one target guy. And if you just extrapolate his targets and give him the targets McBride had, he's having well over 1,000 yards. His fantasy production would be even higher. And unlike McBride, he was actually getting in the end zone. And some of that is obviously fluky, but I think especially if we're betting on Kyler, just another year removed from the injury, getting more comfortable, throwing the ball more, I think Harrison can be very good. Does he have like the elite speed? No, but neither does Tet. And so that's why it's a fair comp between these guys, but I would still go Harrison between the two.
I would tend to agree. And I just noticed, so Bryce Young goes, Brenton Strange goes, and Jordan Love go, all guys we would have liked to have gotten on this squad.
I like Algier or Eckler. I know for a fact Eckler's not getting past 2 games again. So,
what about our next pick after this one? Should we push Eckler and get Algier and try to get both?
We can. Yeah. Either way.
Yep. I like him because we might go running back here. It's kind of a nice pocket to do so if we're not going to take one of these QBs, right? Which I don't think we are.
And especially since we already hit the tight end spot twice, because I like Henry and Ertz, but we don't need to go there right now.
Exactly. On this team, it just doesn't make as much sense structurally for us to grab a tight end right now. Man, this Brad, if you're in here, say what's up. I appreciate you being here, but he's looking at me and he's like, damn, this Candyman is wrecking my draft. He's taking all the picks I want. He doesn't know that I've got Steve feeding me all the answers to the test. So he doesn't know what's going on in the 12 spot.
I really like how we constructed this running back room. Obviously McCaffrey at the top, then hitting the 2 rookies, upside rookies, and then 2 good veteran guys, floor plays, obviously contingent value for Algier. So yeah, I really like how this running back room got constructed.
It's fun to see how much Eckler is rising, and I'm gonna keep chasing him up. I'm gonna keep chasing Eckler up. I think without the concussions last season, he could have had a very nice role. We know Brian Robinson's not that great in the passing game and just okay overall. Does Eckler have one last season in him with the most electric, exciting sophomore quarterback to come to the league for quite a while?
Exactly. And that's the other thing with it is, like you said, he had the multiple concussions last year. It was so unfortunate. But the other part of it is you look late in the year in the playoffs, I'm a Washington fan, and Brian Robinson was losing carries to Jeremy McNichols. Like maybe you're a big Boise State fan and you really want to root up Jeremy McNichols, but come on. I mean, this is a journeyman guy who they did re-sign, and then they draft the guy and they still Chris Rodriguez there. But those guys all kind of take from the Robinson pot. I don't think they really take Eckler's role if Eckler's healthy.
They split a lot of the work, but it was because Eckler was missing time, right?
Yeah, and Brian Robinson missed some time, but my point is, like, it's one thing, we're used to these teams having like 2 backs, whether, Najee and Warren, guys like that, situations like that. But Washington down the stretch was using 3, but Eckler's role was pretty safe, and they were kind of splitting the early down work of Robinson and McNichols. And that was even when Robinson came back from injury. So that's why I'm not taking a lot of Robinson now. And I think we talked about it in my show chat earlier. You asked about taking these backs in situations that we don't feel great about.
Yeah, the ambiguous backfield.
Yeah, and I don't mind doing it right now in these tournaments that are going to close, and we're all getting them at roughly the same value, maybe 10, 20 picks difference. But right now, when I do BBMs or marathons and things like that, I'm not going to be taking them. Maybe later in the year, I will take them, once I feel I have better information. But yeah, right now, I'm not taking them. I like taking these guys like Eckler, who I feel much better about their role, or like in Jacksonville.
Role.
Yeah.
You don't want a guy like Ollie Gordon, although he's a rookie, but he might be duplicating a Madison role or just not used. But you want a guy with a defined role like an Algier, who's the change of pace, or the breather back, or maybe a guy like maybe Garendo is more of a pass catching back, and even with McCaffrey not really ceding a lot of the workload, he's getting older. Garendo showed some explosiveness. They got rid of Mason. They kept Garendo, kind of thing. Are you in on Garendo? Am I reading it right?
Yeah, no, I am in on Garendo because sure they added Jordan James, but I still don't consider that murky. I think Garendo is in the driver's seat for the number 2 role. So I feel much better about that situation. Let's see here, receiver.
So the ADPs are pretty wonky right now.
Can you
I have
sort
Pat
by
Bryant.
receiver?
I'm sorry.
Could you sort by receiver real quick?
Yeah, of course.
The guy I would pull up here, actually, we'll get him with the next pick. Would be Slayton, but we can
do that.
Yeah, let's take him now. That's the guy I want.
That's the guy I'd want too. I heard you talking earlier about that Russell Wilson moonball.
Yeah.
At least for the early part of the season, if we get some big weeks from Slayton, it could help us ease into the second half where Burden increases his snaps, maybe even, we really need Hunter and T-Mac to start strong. So I wouldn't say so much for them, but you just, a little bit of pressure taken off the rookies to produce in the first portion of the tournament. We could bounce it over to running back. We could.
I kind of feel we're good at running back, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe Coker from some of this passing offense in Carolina. Or are you out on him?
I'm actually more on Coker than Leggett, so I'm fine either way. If you have a big stand on Brian, I don't mind it. Excuse me. I don't mind it. But I like Coker. I think Coker is actually safe. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the number 3 in Carolina.
I'm predicting him to be the number 3. I think it's gonna be T-Mac, Thielen, and Coker, and I think Leggett just gets the boot.
Yeah, I think they'll have some trick plays for him and all that, but I don't mind doing Coker there. Like you said, team correlation with Tet or T-Mac, and I actually am kind of bullish on Carolina this year. We saw Bryce Young down the stretch with not much of anything outside of Adam Thielen, put up some big fantasy numbers.
That's hilarious.
That is true.
I'll try to get it right, but yeah, I've seen Eckler. He's been doing some pods. I think he was one of the early adopters of fantasy sports from the pro athlete point of view. And I remember him. I want to say he was in some of Matthew Berry's fantasy leagues, and this is like 5 or 6 years ago, even. But
yeah, I mean, he used to do a pod with Matt Harmon, but then I think,
that too.
Yeah.
I remember that. What was it called again? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember.
Either, but I'd seen it.
Part of Yahoo, Matt Harmon, Yahoo fantasy, but yeah.
Incredible stuff. Matt Harmon's got really good stuff. We all love seeing his reception perception route trees. Every time one comes out for a new rookie, everyone's like, oh, is it green? Is it green? Is it red?
Yeah, and really, like I'm a subscriber of his. You read the write-ups because even somebody like Higgins, who had a lot more yellow than people would like to see, if you read it, I mean, he says he sees him a little differently. He sees him more as a big slot, and his comp, which nobody loved, was Keon Coleman. But it's like what Keon Coleman, the theoretical version of Keon Coleman, not what we saw last year. The same Keon Coleman, big slot, touchdown machine, red zone, getting the job done. I don't think the Texans are necessarily using him in the big slot role. And Harmon, I know, was bullish on the pick for Higgins to the Texans and all that. So, I mean, I know he's on board, but it's just the way that he writes it up really well. And that's, always been a big fan of Matt Harmon. And he's just tremendous what he does with the receivers. And he was one of the first people. And I remember when the combine news came out that Travis Hunter was going as a DB, and some people were tweeting he's the worst pick in big board. And I said anyone who knows the draft, the players kind of have to decide what they're going to go as, like whether it's a linebacker or an edge, whether it's I mean, all offensive linemen are together, but you kind of have to determine that. And so he made that choice. It meant nothing, as we see. Jacksonville, they want him as a wide receiver, and Matt Harmon was one of the first ones to say he should be a wide receiver because he comped him to Odell Beckham. So that's pretty good.
That's a steep comp. I mean, we all remember Odell Beckham's into his rookie year, and that won a lot of people a lot of money in fantasy. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
I talk about it sometimes. My home league, we started our freshman year in high school. So I don't want to give, I can't even count. We're past year 15 since we started this league, and it's our redraft league. We do an auction draft every Labor Day, and we all go somewhere on a vacation together on Labor Day. We rent a house, we hang out now that we're older, right? We can do this thing. And so we get together, and one of my closest buddies, I've known him all through elementary school, everything. He still brings up the fact that he was in on Odell Beckham Jr. and that he won the fantasy championship that year because of Odell. He still brings it up. He'll still wear the Odell jersey. Nice. It's like one of those stories that just never goes away.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's what's great about, like the home leagues. And like you said, like doing these with guys that,
Yeah, man, we gotta figure something out. We got a great build, but it's our last two picks. Where should we go, Steve? How do we land this one?
So I know I'm more in it on you. I don't mind going quarterback here just from a bye week perspective. And Sam Darnold, to me, that's a fall. And you're getting really good value on it.
How can we complete a Seattle connection for Darnold, or do we just need the little floor from him?
Well, I don't mind the floor, but what I would say, whether you want to do a third, I feel we're strong across the board, is Arroyo.
Yes. Is he still there? He's gone. Got Horton or MVS.
Horton or MVS. MVS is the spike week guy.
Yeah.
I don't mind Horton, but I took a decent chunk of MVS in big board, and I don't mind taking a shot here.
Your call, Horton or MVS?
Let's go MVS.
Yep. I like Horton as well. We took so many rookies on this one. We kind of need someone who might not have a slow start to the NFL transition. Horton's coming off the injury. I think he's all good to go. I was a big fan of him at Colorado State. He always looked good when I saw him play. If, of course, if the injury didn't happen, he might be in a different draft tier, but he's definitely not going to start over MVS anytime soon, unless he just pops off the page. And I think that could happen. But for this team, we've got a lot of rookies, right? We don't really need to force another rookie.
Well, and the 2 points I'll make about MVS, one, the offense coordinator is the name escapes me, the son of former coach, who's the Saints offense coordinator last year, who MVS went to, and had a couple of spike weeks down the stretch. So there's some right.
Clint Kubiak.
Yeah. So
good old Kubiak.
Yeah. So the Kubiak family, going back to old Gary.
Shout out to Gary.
And John Elway's backup quarterback in the 80s.
And he looked good doing it.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to win.
But MVS was with Kubiak last year with the Saints, and the Saints offense, as we saw early on.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. That's a really sharp point.
And early on, before they brought in MVS, it was Shaheed who was having those big spike week touchdown games. And Darnold is actually the perfect kind of quarterback for that. He's great with the deep pass.
That's a good point. Darnold, he killed it last season with Minnesota. He didn't stick around. Of course, McCarthy's there, and the rest is history. MVS, I like the connection to Clint Kubiak. And and DK's gone. And it's not a one-for-one replacement, but he's going to stretch the field, right?
Well, and that's the thing. MVS is the one receiver on this team who really has that in his bag,
Ooh. I think we cooked with those last two picks. I like how we landed it.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to draft a good one. Steve is a very sharp best ball drafter. That's why you guys got to check out FanSpeak Network. All of y'all already are. But if you're new here, I'll say it again one last time before we get into another draft, review this team. Make sure you check out the FanSpeak Network. They're getting their best ball subscription going, and you're going to want to get more insights from Steve, from Meg, from the whole team. Check it out. And also, first time broadcasting to X.com. If you're on Twitter, if you're on X and you're watching, hit the link, come over here to YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, and get in the chat, get in these drafts. We're going to be here all summer. So appreciate y'all all joining us in this room. This room had a bunch of our guys in it. Who Hames, Hartman, FK. We got Tim D, Fantasy Dog, the Huron River Rat. I mean, this room was just full of bros. I think we got a squad here, and we're going to start another draft real soon. It's coming up in a few minutes. Let's just do a quick review of this one that Steve and I built out. 3-5-8-2 build. We were able to stack Goff. It's a skinny stack, but I think it's a good way to do it. We didn't go overboard. We didn't force any stacks. We got Amon-Ra with Jared Goff. Both of them right at ADP. Trevor Lawrence, again, right at ADP. And we did reach a little bit for Travis Hunter. I don't mind it, though, because we were still able to get Teteroya McMillan with our next pick around the turn. So we've got two of the hottest rookie receivers to come out in a long time. Maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. last year was pretty hot, but I think these guys there's a lot of steam behind them. They're going to keep moving up the board. I don't know if anyone can replicate how high Marvin Harrison Jr. was going. Ended up being neighbors that you wanted anyways. Go figure. But and then our last pick, we got Sam Darnold, the MVS connection. We landed it. It's a McCaffrey build. With McCaffrey, we also have extreme upside with Harvey and Henderson. We got some, I'd say some good veterans to build this one out to support these rookies. Algier Eckler. I mentioned the receivers. We also got Reed, Burden, Slayton, Coker, MVS. Just some good veteran best ball picks at wide receiver.
No, I agree. I mean, I like to build this kind of team. We took two middle tight ends, so we didn't have to get a third, but had Arroyo been there, that could have been the third.
I would have liked Arroyo, but you sold me on MVS. I think we did right.
Yeah, and getting Darnold, no, not everyone goes to three quarterbacks. I think there's value overall, but especially when you're getting Darnold 20 picks past ADP,
that's
2 rounds past ADP, that's value. And it's just, look, I mean, whether it's Geno, we've seen Geno cook in this offense. We've seen Darnold cook last year with Kevin O'Connell. They could have plenty of spike week games for us. So I'm just a fan. McCaffrey, the old man, the chaperone, then the rookies, then hitting back with a couple of vets. Just really like how we structurally did every team, every build, and real big fan of that draft.
It was a good one. The chat enjoyed it. We're gonna rip right into another one, guys. Let's do it. And again, thanks Steve for being here. He's been streaming all day, drafting all day. Let's get into. We're gonna do another 30-second puppy. Does that sound good, everyone? You guys ready? Let's see if we get the location error. I can enter from my phone, so don't worry if it. Okay, waiting on 3. We're gonna snap fill it. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, a quick one. Hope some of y'all got in. I'm gonna keep it rolling. Hope I didn't throw you off there. How many times am I going to say Huron River Rat this week? I feel like that's one of my new catchphrases. And then Fantasy Dog in the 6. Who Hames in the 8. We are in the 11 spot, which that seems a little familiar.
Yeah, which is I just did 2 drafts with my sister, and we had the 9th spot both times. So
yeah,
must be the team of the night.
It works. I think in some rooms, and you never know until you get in, until you dip your toes in and you see how the waters feel. In some rooms, I like to be in the middle. I like to grab those falling values. On days when there's a lot of news, I like to be in the middle so I can get those values. Where's Pickens going? Where's Metcalf's going?
Yeah. Other
times, I like to be at the end. You're going to get obviously good value at the beginning of the draft in the 1 through kind of 5 to 6 range. But then in the other part that we're in the 11-12 is also very nice because, like we did in the last draft, we manipulated the drafter in the 12 spot and we took control by taking Trevor Lawrence from him. We got the stacks that we wanted. We got the veterans that we wanted. We pushed players he couldn't take because of his positional selection. So I like bullying the person in the 12 spot. And MSU fan, if you're in here, I apologize, but you're about to get beat down by some of the best in the business. You got Steve here, and then you got me riding the wake. So get ready for
you're right there.
Draft. What's that?
Yeah, I said you're right there as a top drafter. So
yeah, I appreciate that. You're too kind.
Yeah, sorry.
We're working on it.
We're gonna say we're the 12 spot.
I know that you had a great outcome, and it can only get better. But and all the chat knows you. But tell us more about your best ball exploits last season, some of your results, and what you're able to do.
Yeah, so I had about 700 drafts on UD, 300, low over 300 on DK, and I was about 30% advance rate in those drafts.
Very nice.
Including the BPM, and which I only did 57, I think. And I had 150 some playoff teams in Underdog at 80 in DraftKings, whatever it was. But I ended up getting 16 finals teams through, none in the BBM. But I did get fourth place in the big board.
Impressive.
And which is, similar size to the BBM, and especially the finals is 500 plus people. So that was a fun sweat, crazy sweat. But yeah, I had some really good finishes in like the Greyhound, the Eliminator. I think there were only 115 people in the finals last year for the Eliminator. So I got one team out of 22 through. So that was a fun sweat as well, but didn't get all the way home. Yeah,
Incredible.
Let's go Nico this time.
You're drafting at volume, ball, and you're getting results. So are you cool with Nico here?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Nico.
Yes. I'm a big fan of healthy hamstrings going into 2025.
And I know you're a Texans fan, so yeah.
I am. I do my best not to be a total homer. My 2023 draft season, I said, let me be an anti-homer. I'm not going to take every single Longhorn and every single Texan that shows up in the draft. And that would have been a pretty good year to do it. Last year, my top two receivers were Nico and Worthy practically. So I kind of reversed course on that. But long story short, I try not to be overly exposed in any kind of biased way.
You want to go? I would go Bowers or Henry.
Let's do Henry. Got it. Yes.
Nice.
I'm excited to take Henry. I did take him last night, and so my exposures are only updated through before the drafts that I did yesterday evening. I got my first Henry shares, and I took Henry with Lamar, and I think you might have been in one of those rooms.
Yeah.
So I always see you out here in these late night streams. It's always good to see all the familiar faces in the chat and in these drafts. Got BBG stopping by. He was streaming earlier as always. Appreciate you stopping by, brother. Hope your evening is going very well. And number 4 in the big board. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This guy is good. Certified. I'll tell you, my best tout so far, and this is my third best ball summer. I've only got 2 summers of results where I've entered a large number of large field tournaments, but I got 7th in the Poodle, my inaugural season. So that was New Year's Eve. It turned 2024 and we're celebrating. And I went from 10th to 5th to 4th to 2nd to ended up in 7th. So I got 7th in the Poodle. It's good enough to buy everyone a round of drinks, that kind of thing. Not 4th in the big board. But that was fun. It's just a fun time. It's a good sweat. And it was a CeeDee Lamb, a Mon-Ra build. I also had Amari Cooper. I also had Pickens. I also had I had Dak. I had Goff. I had him stacked up. Those are the ones that really stand out that I remember. And then I got lucky. I've been a follower of professional golf for a long time. I've been playing fantasy golf since about, I'd say I took it seriously in the last 3 years, but I've been playing since about 2020, 2019. 2020 is probably about right. And
Mhm.
I took down, I think it was 5th in the Albatross, which is
Nice.
the majors only PGA best ball drafts on Underdog. So I took 5th in the Albatross. I min cashed one of my other's finals teams, or maybe did a little bit better than min cash, but a couple $100 on that one. And then I had another team get in the 30s or maybe the 20s. I think it was the 20s, like 23 or something, which is nothing to write home about. But I had 3 teams in the finals out of a field that was
That's
about
awesome.
300 teams. And so I felt good. I got one shot on goal. It was really close. And I was sweating. I was in second for about
Mm.
3 hours on a Sunday at the Open at Royal Troon. And I mean, I had a great squad. It was fun. The PGA best ball community it's small. There's a lot of familiar faces and names. Some of the guys that we see in the chat drafting in the NFL with us are PGA guys. They're in the Discords. They're on Twitter. Golf is more of a betting community right now
Mhm.
than it is a fantasy community. And if it is a fantasy community, it's a lot of traditional fantasy,
DFS,
not
yeah.
necessarily best ball. It's more one and dones. It's daily
Yeah.
lineups, and it's fun though. It's a lot of fun. So next week is the PGA Championship. We'll be talking about it on the channel. We'll be reviewing some of those teams. I'm trying to advance. I've got like 64 Albatross out of my 150 max remaining. So we've made it to round 2. We're trying to get into round 3 and then into the finals. And I think we've got a good shot of doing it. But enough about that. Let's get ready for this next pick. Nico and Derrick Henry. I mean, you can't go wrong taking a receiver and a running back and balancing yourself, letting the value fall to us. We could really take whatever comes
Yeah.
around the corner. Last time we went Hunter and T-Mac. Any other combos you really like at this 3-4 turn, Steve?
I do feel it's a great receiver spot. Usually you're having some guys fall. Though this time, like T Mac or Evans, those guys sometimes fall. They did not. But I think you can pop a quarterback here, Allen or Jackson. I do that plenty. And wow, Chase Brown. That's
I think we take Chase Brown,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's good value. Especially he didn't get a lot of draft competition. I think Chase Brown's in a really good spot, and I'm fine. We could go the Hunter again or DK, or we could take a top quarterback. I'd be good either way.
I am tempted to go top quarterback. We're a little bit
Mhm.
behind the 8 ball at wide receiver if we do that. So I would lean Lamar since we have Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that. I like getting all the offense,
I think that
all the top tier offense.
it smashed last season. What's going to change? What's going to stop it from happening again? Otherwise, let's just look at ADP. That's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, it
Wide
seems.
receiver.
I like going Lamar, and
Let's do it.
I think we can catch up at receiver. I really do. Sure, the receiver hits a cliff in the 120s, but we can still get. We have one already, so it's not like we have zero, and we can get 5 in these next few rounds.
I agree. We can hit it hard. We have some, I know some players that you like some receivers that you've been drafting kind of in that, like you said, round kind of 5, 6, 7 range. I think I've got some guys that I really like there. So we're not afraid to take our guys in that range and we'll make it work.
Yeah,
So far we've got one receiver in Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Lamar Jackson. Man, last year I really would have thought the Texans Ravens game in week 17 on Christmas Day would have been a lot more interesting, but that was a shit game for the Texans. 3 points, I think, with a field goal is all they got.
yeah,
They gave up a safety, I want to say, and I
yeah,
think I kind of, sometimes you have those games that are just so bad as a fan and as games you want to go off in fantasy that you kind of just put them in the back of your mind and try to forget about them as soon as they happen. That's kind of what that game was for me.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the ones that people really. It's interesting. That was one of the ones, and Texans started struggling, particularly with all the injuries they were getting and the O line and all that. But that was one pre-draft everyone was in, and another one that everyone was in was Detroit, San Francisco. But because San Francisco went so bad, and of course the McCaffrey shares are dead, I think by the time Week 17 came around, nobody thought that that was viable at all. And then Pearsall goes off and Jennings go off for 49ers. Not that a lot of people had Jennings. But, JMO went off, Gibbs went off, Goff had a big game, Purdy had a big game. Amon-Ra had a pretty decent game. He was in my big board team. And so it ended up being, Laporta had a big game. So it ended up being a pretty good fantasy game.
Right.
But yeah, it felt like nobody was expecting it to go off, and then it did.
It's going to be so interesting next week. We're on the cusp of getting the schedule. We're starting to see some things leak. I haven't seen anything yet. Have you seen any leaks come across that you've taken note of or written down?
No, I'd heard a couple because I think we're going to hear the international games first. I want to say maybe tomorrow, if I'm right. Or I know Tom Strachan was talking about it, and I can't remember when, but I think we're hearing that maybe Monday.
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah.
In the Fantasy Sanctuary. I'm in a dynasty league with Tom that we started 2 years ago. We're in our third year going into it, and we have our rookie draft starting up on Sunday. Of course, he's in the UK, so there's wacky time zones. I think our rookie draft starts at like 2 a.m. my time, so I'll be the guy who wakes up and I've been on the clock for like 6 hours, and everyone's texting me. They're trying to make trades, and like, what are you doing? Sorry,
I'm at a normal time.
Yeah. No, I love those guys though, and excited for that one. I've got the 110 in that one. I came close to winning the league, but like you said, you have the 110 in yours coming up, right?
I have 108 and 112. I finished the team runner-up team, but I have the 112.
But you have the 112. Who do you think would be? And you don't have to give away all your secrets, but I know a lot of us in the chat are doing our rookie draft for Dynasty. I've finished one. I've got one coming up. The back end of the first round. What is your strategy there? Do you try to trade out? Are you going to make the picks? And who do you like there?
I think I'm going to make the picks because I really like that area this year. I think it's a strong area. I think for me, if Loveland falls, I would take him at 108. I don't think he will because we're a tight end premium. But maybe Warren at the 112. But I really want Harvey at 108. If not Caleb Johnson. And then at 112, I'll probably hit a receiver. Whether it's Burden, Harris, Higgins, I could see any of them being there.
Makes sense to me. We're on the clock.
I like Pickens.
Around the turn. MSU fan is in a similar spot where they started off pretty heavy in the running backs. Do you want to go Pickens here, or are you?
Let's take Pickens.
Yeah, I'm way in on Pickens. I've got him ranked way up high there. I might need to keep moving him up. And he's on Dallas now. I got to keep reminding myself. I'm so used to seeing him in that black and yellow.
Yeah. So, we could take a third running back here. We could take a receiver like Olave or Godwin.
The value is so good here at running back. I mean, Ken Walker, Kamara, these are guys that can run and catch.
Yeah. Even James Conner.
Conner even, right? It's just not as good of a value to go for a wide receiver here, is it?
I agree. Let's go Walker. I think he's got the biggest upside here.
I'm not going to touch Laporta in this range. It's unfortunate. Laporta's kind of in a dead zone right now for me, where I don't take tight end and miss out on these running backs and wide receivers. The opportunity cost is just too high. It's too damn high for me to take Laporta, even though I kind of want him on some teams.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll get more of him overall, but right now I have a little with the Bowers McBride, but I have a good percentage on Kittle. I think Kittle, look, he finishes the in points per game as tight end 1. Sure, you're getting him 3 rounds after the Bowers McBride area, so it's like that to me is just a no-brainer. And then I'm kind of skipping down until we get to this like Jonnu Loveland, type range.
I typically do that. Um, I I think Kittle is closer to McBride
Me too.
than his ADP shows, which
Yeah.
makes me I was big in on McBride during the big board, and Kyler was my top drafted quarterback at right around, I think it was 23 or 24% it came out
Mm.
to. So I end up with a lot of McBride, a lot of Kyler, but the more I think about it, I'm not out on McBride. It's just it's expensive. Maybe it's worth it. He's got like what, 6 career touchdowns? That's not great. What is Kyler Murray's ceiling in the passing game? If Marvin Harrison takes a big step forward, can Kyler support 2 options and that go in round 2 and 3 turn? Like, I don't know that he can. I don't know that
Yeah.
he's got that. That's Mahomes has trouble supporting that, right? I mean, it takes a Goff having his best season. It takes what does it take to support 2
It's
passers
tough.
the first 3 rounds?
Yeah, no, it's really tough. You need hyper efficiency or a ton of targets. You're not going to get a ton of targets, so you really have to have hyper efficiency. And the issue is kind of like what you said. And this is I was actually lower. I've been lower on McBride. I have more Bowers than McBride, even though Bowers is more expensive. My thesis on it is sure they got Genty, Jack Besh, the other wide receiver, but Bowers is still the number one there. I don't think Jacoby's threatening that. I don't think Besh is threatening that. He's the number one. McBride very likely could be the number two. I think Marvin Harrison, their target share could just flip. And if that happens, even if McBride gets more touchdowns this year, he might not change in his fantasy outlook. Like, I still think he's like a top 5 tight end, but I just don't know if he's really in the running for 1 or 2.
It's a good point. And another thing is, this is half point PPR.
Yeah, touchdowns matter.
Touchdowns matter. Kittle is known for having the ability to have a 2 or 3 touchdown game. That is so rare at the tight end position. And tight end is not a premium position in this format. It's kind of the least important position.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt that way. You might need a quarterback or 2 in week 17. You probably need the right combination of receivers. We've seen it year in and year out. There's only so few combos of receivers that can actually win in week 17. And then the running backs are typically the ones that either get you to the playoffs or like a Jonathan Taylor is just that top running back for a small stretch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Tight ends don't really factor in that way as much as I've seen.
When also tight ends, even a guy like Kittle, they're unlikely to do it 3 weeks in a row. And so when you're investing in Bowers and McBride, you're probably only doing 2 tight ends, or if you are doing 3, you're probably taking like 17th and 18th round. So that just makes it harder to get 3 good tight end scores. They don't need to be tight end 1, but they need to be good tight end scores. And 2 years ago, Sam Laporta's rookie year, he had a great week 15, but week 16 total, like, terrible. I think he had 4 points. And, and then I think he had a really good week 17, but, or at least above average in that Cowboys game. And so it's just like, if you're relying on Laporta, you're done, and he was obviously a mid-round tight end then.
So I remember from our draft last time, your burden over Egbuka, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I've got too much Egbuka as it is. I do like him. We could take Burden. We could go Mooney. Do you want to take Mooney this time? Or Burden?
Let's take Burden. I'm fine playing for the upside. Yeah, I love Egbuka, but to me, it's just so tough when you have extremely established targets. I know it's a new offense coordinator, but he was part of the offense last year. But it's Baker. It's the same head coach. Everything else is the same. Mike Evans is not going anywhere. He's going to get 1,000 yards. He's going to get 9 to 12 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin might start off slow, and that's almost my thing. Is like Egbuka might be better in like the eliminator when early weeks he's playing more for. Even though he's a rookie, he's most NFL ready receiver I think in this draft. And he could be playing more early on when Godwin's getting ramped up. But come week 16, 17, if Godwin's healthy, that's who I'm trusting Baker to get the ball to.
Interesting. Yes.
And
it's
I don't mind Egbuka overall, but I think
healthy.
Yeah, I just think Egbuka should be more like in the early 100s.
Okay. then I think we've already got Lamar. I don't
Yeah.
know that we want a tight end in this range, right?
I like Mooney here. Help us catch up at receiver.
Yes.
We have 4 good, pretty good starters. Sure, Nico's like the only elite alpha, but I'm bullish on, we see Pickens upside. We know I'm bullish on Burden. And Mooney last year, you give me a rinse and repeat of last year, I'm fine with that.
Of course. I want to say I was looking at this earlier today. I think Mooney had like 3 weeks inside the top 12 as a wide receiver. Maybe we can look at it. Let's test this one out. I want to get this one right. And then I have a comp. Remind me to share my comp with you for Egbuka when we get back from our little journey to see. And we're on the page. You might as well play the game. It should be an easy one for you guys in the chat. I know Steve knows the answer. Let's flip it to the segment we like to do here in the Fantasy Football Garage. Is Darnell Mooney explosive? Steve?
I think he is. I don't know what he ranks here. It doesn't look like he ranks well, but I think he is extremely explosive.
He is the definition of explosive. He is Mr. Darnell Mooney, the 6th overall wide receiver in 2024 in EPX. That's explosive
amazing.
rating. It is it's an efficiency metric. It's per play. It's big plays. It's catches over 20 yards. He had 21 freaking explosive plays last season.
And he missed
in 16 games. That's well over 1 per game in 64 receptions. That's about 33% of his receptions. He's going to give you 20-yard plus.
Yeah.
He's number 6 overall. He's incredible. Let's look at the game log real quick. This is in PPR. It's a little bit skewed, but I like to count 2 things. 1, top 12, and 2, top 24s. So there's a top 24. There's a top 12 and a top 24. Another borderline. I think in half point PPR, that's a top 12.
Yeah.
There's another top 12, another top 24, another top 12 in half point, I would venture to say.
I would guess.
So we just counted up 5 where I think 4 or 5 is potentially right, a top 12 receiver on the week because his ability to generate explosive plays. He doesn't need more than 64 receptions. He almost had 1,000 yards. This is Jameson Williams at a discount. You're getting him in round 8. Darnell Mooney, let's say Michael Penix Jr. is the next pocket passer you want a piece of, then he's going to smash.
Well, let's go back to what Michael Penix is. He arguably had the best arm in that draft class. He is a cannon,
100%.
a rocket for an arm. And we saw it with, Odunze, McMillan, Polk. I think him and Mooney pair up very, very nicely. So yeah, I'm a big Mooney fan. I loved him last year when we were getting him in the 130s, but late 80s, early 90s, I'm all on board.
I got to move him up my ranks. If I go to my Falcons here, I've got Mooney ranked 88. I got to move him up. His ADP is 90. I got to get him way up ahead.
It's just also like you look at those kind of guys like Cooper Kupp. Sure, I mean, we know the upside Cooper Kupp has, but injuries is a factor. And that's what I mean about Mbuka. Like, I love Mbuka, but I will take Darnell Mooney 9 times out of 10 versus Mbuka. It'd have to be like a Baker Mbuka stack. That's the time I'm going Mbuka. And same with Josh Downs. Like, I'll take Penix over Richardson or Daniel Jones. Yeah, exactly like Huheim said. Like Shakir Shakir maybe gives a little bit of a floor play, doesn't have the ceiling, and it's just such a good offense. So like he could just get a little bigger chunk of it, and he suddenly turns into a really good play. And it's kind of the same with Reed, but I'm in the same boat. Like I just trust Mooney more. I think the targets are more locked in, and yeah, I just think he fits really well with Penix.
I was so happy to see Mooney have a resurgent year. I always thought he was an interesting player from what he did in Chicago, and then to come back in Atlanta and have a great year like he did. If we look back, I mean, it had been a couple seasons since he had that 1,000-yard year. Was that the Fields year, or was that
before rookie year? Yeah.
So that was Fields in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of games like Nick Foles, I
Yeah,
think.
but
But then Fields.
Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles, put some respect on his name, Steve.
That is true.
I'm a fan.
Interesting.
I like Nick Foles. He's from the Austin area. He went to Austin Westlake High School, if I remember that
Nice.
correctly. So we've
The
got
the
some ties there.
The interesting thing is he was at Michigan State with Kirk Cousins, and he was the higher recruit, and Kirk Cousins beat him out, and so he transferred to Arizona.
Steve, you're such a ball knower. You just never fail to surprise. In this range, man,
A lot of guys I like.
I like Mason. We like Loveland.
Let's do Mason. I
Yes.
wouldn't mind getting
We
another.
don't have to go running back, though. Is there anyone else here we should get? Bateman? We push it?
I think we could get Bateman on the second of these picks, or maybe even push.
Let me refresh. We kind of got in a spot there where it was hard to tell exactly what pick we had coming up next. We have the 110. I think
So
that's
Bateman
smart.
would need
Push
to.
it.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, we don't need. I honestly don't think we need to reach, especially if we're getting Loveland. If Loveland gets taken, then maybe that's another story. But though I don't mind Ingram.
And then so obviously we've got Lamar. There's no need to rush to get Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
Dak, could be there later. Stroud and Dak could be there later. Let's see how the room goes. I'm going to give us a point of reference. Our next picks are going to be 131, 134. If I had to venture to, if this is a month ago or even 2 weeks ago, Dak and Stroud would both be there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be there this time. I'm cool with taking Loveland again here.
Yeah, take Loveland. And look, Mooney, we take a last, Michael Penix could be an option, like to give us another stack. So yeah, I'm very bullish on Loveland. And this is just another situation similar to the Packers last time. Sure, we didn't get the quarterback, but Burden and Loveland get me two pieces of Ben Johnson's offense. I'm happy.
Love it. So we're both pretty high on Loveland, and I would say Burden as well. Mm-hmm. Isn't that damning for a player like Rome Odunze?
Yeah, so I've definitely moved Odunze down. I still have him above Burden, but I've moved him down. I view this, I look at last year, very telling. Your Houston Texans, mm-hmm. Nico was the clear alpha guy going, late round 1, early round 2. But then like Dell and Diggs were both in top 5 rounds. And it was like clear there's no quarterback who's supporting 3 top 5 round receivers. Here, it's spread out a little bit more. And it's kind of similar to
we've been saying it, I think, as a community within within our best ball community, we've started to realize over the last week or two, or maybe even before then, hey, these Bears look a lot like those Texans.
Yeah.
They can't all pay off. And Odunze was the worst of them. He was terrible last season. He wasn't any good. It's hard to say because he looked like such a good prospect coming out of college from Washington. So we also, we were talking about Michael Penix. Steve, I'll share with you. I was in New Orleans when I won 7th in the puppy because I was at the Texas game.
Nice.
Texas versus Washington. Of course, the horns went down. It came down to a last-second play. Quinn Ewers overthrows Adonai Mitchell in the right corner of the end zone. I'm standing at the other side of the field looking, waiting to see if they're going to come back and win. Very close game, but the entire game, I just see this tall lefty throwing the most beautiful deep ball, almost a moon ball you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And there's guys like Odunze. There's guys like McMillan, Polk even. I don't even know if Polk had the right stats that game. It's one of those games, like I told you, I put in the back of my head and I kind of forget what happened because I was sad. But, that game, when I saw that, I was like, Penix is the real deal. He could be a really good passer. 1 year later, Penix doesn't get a whole lot of show, not a lot of starts, but he got drafted way ahead of where people thought he would go to the Falcons in the first round, even with the Kirk Cousins contract. Now Kirk could be on the way out. Maybe he's a backup. The other thing we saw is Polk didn't pay off. Odunze didn't pay off. McMillan, he only paid off because Godwin was hurt and they had to use him, in my opinion. So is Penix the elevator in that from that offense, is it really Penix that was driving all that production? Is Odunze way overvalued? And I've got Odunze ranked around behind where he's going right now.
Yeah, I definitely have him behind where he's going right now. I'm still somewhat bullish on Odunze because I do think he was the most talented. He ran a 4.43 or something at 6'3", 6'4", 215 pounds, whatever his combine numbers were. He also had a good short shuttle. I'm willing to give the Bears last year a pass. That offense was so terrible. I'll be interested to see what Ben Johnson can do. But yeah, I mean, Odunze, it was not a great start for sure.
Yeah, the chat.
Like
everyone is high
was,
on not everyone, but our community is split on the Bears. They're so exciting. They could be so much, but they just haven't done it yet. And so I think we're buying the Bears at their ceiling outcome right now. When we just saw them re-roll, they got Loveland and Burden. They're literally telling us what they want to do with their offense. They want to funnel it through these new rookie players going forward. What do we got here? We could take Stroud. It is the 11th round. I don't mind getting a QB at this point.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that, but do you want to take Kyle Williams first and just hope that MS Fan does he have any reason to take Stroud?
He does not. And he also has Kyler.
Yeah. So let's hope that we take Kyle. Stroud comes back to us. I know it's a little bit of a risk, but I think that makes sense because I think he's probably going receiver, maybe in double tapping it here. Yeah, he takes Betch.
I think we're on to something. You know, it's not that good of a value yet to take him and try to backstack him when the only options left are Knoll and Schultz, maybe Marks. You know,
I'm not high on Woody Marks.
I'm not either. Mixon's going to hold down the role. He always does. And then Mixon only leaves room for a speed back to, you know, maybe come in and do small things, but
yeah, no, I agree. Like, I didn't think somebody would try and backstack him. Yeah, he took Lawrence. I think he's at BTJ, so that makes perfect sense. We take Stroud here, and I think we're cooking.
Is there anything? So Stroud is the way to go.
Yeah,
let's do that. I'm going to queue up the Ravens and let's just take inventory because I think we've hit our limit on potential players we'd like to stack with Lamar. It's likely or bust, in my opinion. I took Hopkins once and it must have been a best ball mania. So, you know, that's actually shame on me. But it's kind of like if likely comes back around,
I'm good.
Do you entertain it or do you think don't force it?
I don't think we need to force it, but I think likely makes sense when you're talking about an offense like the Ravens, there's just raw spike week upside with this offense, especially when you have Lamar. And I mean, I'm taking likely as it is. And honestly, like late round Hopkins, I don't hate just for the same reasons. I mean, we've seen Bateman deal with injuries. We've seen Mark Andrews deal with injuries. Zay Flowers is a 5'8" receiver. Like he got banged up. He didn't miss any time, but he got banged up. I guess he missed the first playoff game, I think. But he got banged up.
He missed last year. I think 2 playoff games with his knee injury.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, is Hopkins probably, you know, washed at this point? Yeah, maybe, but I think he's a good veteran. If anyone's going to elevate him, it's going to be Lamar, you know. So I don't mind him like super late in like Lamar stats.
I've you know, of course I'm a Hopkins fan. I love Nuke. He's in the intro. I don't have a jersey of him, but I practically do. I probably had a t-shirt jersey of him. I kind of, you know, such a fan. The Houston years, the Arizona years, the Tennessee years, even worse. He goes to the Chiefs mid-season, and what did we get from him?
Yeah, he only had like 1, maybe 2 usable weeks. You know, some of that I wonder, for one thing, and I think we saw this last year, so many receivers changed teams. Football is different than any other sport in terms of like trade deadline and getting, good night, Tyler, Emo. And I think it's so hard because it's so much about game plan and certain scheme fit where you can get traded in the NBA or NHL, and sure, you might need to find the right line or the right rotation. Same with baseball, but football is so hard to get traded, and especially like a
Yeah.
wide receiver getting on the same page as the quarterback, that takes time. That is not something easily done.
So you think it was more of a mid-season? It's a tough transition. It was a lot of an offense to learn. They maybe didn't figure out how to use them in the best way, and now having one off season with the Ravens, they might be able to scheme it up a little bit better, or that they just, they don't have. I think part of the reason Hopkins went to the Chiefs is the injury to Rice, and the injury to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ravens are full strength. They don't need to force him into any particular role. They can maybe figure out how to best utilize him. So now you're starting to sell me back on Hopkins. I want to avoid taking him, but if it's in the last round and we have the stack, I'm willing and I will listen.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like go crazy on Hopkins, and I don't think he should like be massively above ADP, but it's one of those things where any injury that happens, his stock just rises. And we've seen all these guys get injured.
100%.
I like the Noel pick.
At pick 55, we can get Noel, a little bit of a faller.
Yeah.
Just using my best ball overlay here to look for my stacks, and it's already highlighting the best one. We've now got CJ Stroud double stacked with Nico Collins and Jalen Noel. Anytime you can stack up your first round pick as a receiver with the quarterback, you almost have to do it. Where should we go with this next pick? We both like Eckler. We could go back to the running back, but our running backs look pretty good we might just go back to receiver or maybe tight end.
You want to do tight end? Hunter Henry, I think, is a good pick here. It's also, we have Kyle Williams.
Yep.
Building that this offense will be better.
Receiver kind of sucks here too, doesn't it?
Receiver's terrible outside of Thielen's the only guy I'm clicking with regularity. Some Pierce, low Dobbs, but Thielen's the only guy that I have a pretty good feel for. I know people think he's cooked, and the one case I'll make for Thielen, and my sister makes fun of me because she says I'm the biggest Thielen stan, but he has finished top 30 in points per game each of the last 2 years. Even if you look at his total production, he was like receiver 50 through 10 games last year. He's going later than that. But what I will say is we see this all the time. Dallas Goedert just had to take a pay cut. Jerome Ford took a pay cut. The Carolina Panthers actually gave Thielen more money to come back. They did not have to, and he very well could have retired at that point, but they said, we're going to actually give you a pay raise. You almost never see that in the NFL right now.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if FK Coolers is being facetious by saying that Jalen Noel is going to be so good by year 3, or if he is, it seems bullish on him. But obviously, in best ball, you want him to be good in year 1. It's a payoff immediately. But I think he's being honest that he likes him. We like Chase Brown, of course, Tim, and then at the end, food for thought. Does it influence your position on Adam Thielen, knowing he's a scratch golfer?
He is a very good golfer.
He's good. He's damn good at golf.
Yeah. No, I mean,
he's an athlete. He's there's a mental component to it, to football, that I think it's understated sometimes. And then you see these guys who transcend the one sport they play, and they're able to be excellent in other areas. It's like, okay, this guy can just figure it out mentally.
Yeah.
That's an extra element that I think doesn't get valued in the stats or in the combine measurements, OAs, and things like that. Where Thielen is, the reason he's sticking around in his age 35 season is because the dude just gets it, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it is funny, like when you see these guys like Michael Jordan loves golf. Like, if you watch, pretty much everyone's watched The Last Dance, but it's like he's like begging Phil to get out of practice early so he can get around to golf. And it's like some of these guys, they just have that secondary passion. But yeah, no, Thielen is a very good golfer. I've seen multiple interviews where he talks about that, and I think he plays like the Tahoe Open in June and all that. So yeah,
the Tahoe. He just did Mayakoba in Mexico. Nice. Here's something fun. So that team was the NFLPA tournament. The returning champs, it was the Harrison Smith team. Guess who's playing with Viking Harrison Smith? It's Adam Thielen, longtime Viking, scratch golfer. It's Robert Tonyan, head scratcher, but maybe he's just, good at golf. None other. Do you know the answer?
No.
J.J. McCarthy.
Ooh.
And he was the ringer. He was
really
knocking in putts from 30 feet. I don't know if it was a 3-day tournament, but it was the day before. It was a penultimate day, and they were interviewing McCarthy on the 18th green, and they're just like, how do you feel being out here being essentially kind of a redshirt rookie, kind of a new guy to the NFL, and having these veterans, trust you and bring you out here and believe in you? And in that moment, I was like, this guy, he's got something. If he's got the buy-in from those NFL vets, and it's golf, they're making side bets, they're playing for pride. He might have what it takes to be a quarterback in the league. Besides being a national champion, okay, guys, I know. But people in the chat love to say that he didn't even throw the ball at Michigan. It was just the offensive line carrying him.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I think going Schultz here makes a lot of sense.
We got to take him. I don't think we give him a chance. He's only got one tight end.
Yeah,
look at the tight end room. It's pretty. He could take him. He might go Auten. Let's just see who his quarterback is. His quarterback is Kyler and Lawrence. Anyone else you have to have here?
No, I mean, I think we're strong at running back. Quarterback, obviously, running back and receiver. So we're going to take more picks there, but nobody that I felt we had to force.
And I think at this range, pick 179. These are $1 auction bids.
Yeah.
There was a great show that Pat did with Billy Jones earlier in the week on Sunday about draft capital, the allocation, inflection points in the draft capital curve, when it's okay to throw ADP out the window, and we're well past the point. I mean, it's pick 145, 150, and we're in the 80s already. So regardless of Schultz ADP, he's a good pick on this team. It makes a lot of sense.
What else do you like here?
You think it's wide receiver, right?
I mean, I'm fine taking Pat Bryant. I feel our wide receiver room's pretty strong. We're obviously taking more, but let's go Pat Bryant. That's a good, fun upside play.
Yeah. It's a day 2 receiver. He's a 3rd rounder.
Yeah.
But Mims is kind of a special teamer at heart. It looks like maybe Pat Bryant, who I've been hearing, I think people have mentioned in the chat, he's a good run blocker. I don't know a ton about him. He's an Illinois receiver, right?
Yeah. He's been very involved these last 2 years. The second year kind of breakout. I mean, Illinois, their quarterback play has not been strong as one could imagine. But no, I mean, he's big, he's fast, good hands. I think he's a good route runner. I think he could take a little while to get going overall, but I think in Denver it's a good fit for him because he doesn't have to be the number one. You've Sutton there. I think I think Mims is going to be like he's going to be a spike week guy. So I don't mind taking him some, especially in Bo Nix stacks. But as we saw last year, it wasn't until the end of the year. And then you have these other guys like Vele and Franklin, and I think Bryant can rise to the top of that.
Vele doesn't seem like all that much to beat out, does it? If all you have to do is beat Devon Vele, who was a 25-year-old rookie, that doesn't seem very daunting. The Troy Franklin connection, I still think Troy Franklin's interesting, but he needs to take a big step forward. And then Sutton was very good last season. It might have been his career or his second best career year, but this offense is going into the future with Bo Nix, as far as I can tell, and RJ Harvey. And, is Pat Bryant a part of that plan? Maybe, right? Maybe sooner than later. Yeah.
And this is, again, if we're doing an eliminator, I'm not taking Pat Bryant, but if we're doing something like this, post-buy rookie bump, late season bump, I can totally see that for Pat Bryant. I don't think you're going to get him as a viable option for 17 games, but second half of the year for sure.
It was Who Hames that I've been talking to about Pat
he's
Bryant lately.
very bullish on Pat Bryant.
Yeah. And shout out to Who Hames. He had a great stream earlier today. Make sure you're subscribed to Who Hames' channel.
Yeah, great channel,
Good
great
ball
follow.
knower. And he's in the draft streets. He's a big friend of the channel. We actually had him on two nights ago.
Yeah, I did a draft with you guys. Yeah.
And Steve was there drafting with us. Of course, you're already subscribed to Steve's channel, the FanSpeak Network. But if you're new here, I'll say it again. Go ahead and subscribe to Steve's channel. They're coming out with their best ball subscription, and it's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of the great content that they've been putting together for years. They've packaged it together, and they're excited to put it out. So check it out. Make sure you just subscribe to the channel. Consider his best ball subscription for the year. I think it's a great deal. I'm very interested, and you can tell just from the time we've had Steve on tonight, and all the times you've seen him on his streams. Ball knower, produces results, and he's a best ball degenerate just like us. And so if you're into all of those kind of things, if you're vibing with the chat, go ahead and throw a like, throw a subscribe to my channel as well, and we'll see you here all summer long drafting best ball teams. It only gets better. It only goes up from here. It's May. We'll get the schedule next week. Steve, what's your favorite part about the schedule release?
I think my favorite part is the overhyping of week 17. I think the schedule release is important, but we saw last year, honestly, we've seen the last 2 years, the BBM winners didn't have major week 17 correlation. 2 years ago, the Love Jaden Reed stack was brought back with Alexander Madison. And last year, I don't believe there was a bring back for Pearsall. I don't think there was a lines. I could be wrong. But it's important. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not important, but people overhype it, overdraft for it. And like you said, look, we're going to be wrong on some of these. The Ravens, Texans, everyone thought that was one of the best. And the one knock on it was they both had week 14 buys, so you really had to kind of figure out around it how you were going to survive. But other than that, that turned into a dud, and we see this every year. So it's important, build teams around, and this is also why you do volume, so you can get different shots on goal. It's so important. But what you wanted last year was the guy we just talked about. Mims is the bring back to Burrow and Higgins,
of course.
But if you were drafting, one of the Broncos running backs, you weren't paying off, or any other receiver like Franklin wasn't paying off. So you just have to do it right, and you try and get shots. But I'm not one who overdrafts week 17. Like, I want one bring back, maybe two, depends on how good the teams are. And I say that it's also about value. Like, if you're getting one early, one late, great. If you're getting too much early and they're not going to pay off, I worry about it too much. So I'm more, just as we get more and more data, it's important, but I think some people you see, and they'll have 9 of their 18 picks from that one game. And it's like, that's probably too much,
It's a little bit much.
So it's the overhyping of it. I honestly think the buys are a more important thing, not just for some of these other tournaments. I know we're on the clock.
It's our last pick here. I'm thinking we go receiver because we had a little kind of late to getting to receiver.
Do you want a veteran and take Lockett and hope that helps us with some of these like rookies?
Actually, let me think about that. Should we go Calvin Austin?
Oh, let's do that. Yeah.
I'm glad I scrolled a little bit down. I need to move him up my ranks. Currently, I've got Austin. I just haven't re-ranked him yet, but I've been meaning to consider him in this range. And I don't think we ever had a chance for any other Ravens, was the unfortunate piece. But at the end of the day, you don't have to stack Lamar. We've already got Derrick Henry. We're capturing those rushing touchdowns. And I think this is a really fun squad. I mean, we came at it from a different angle.
That was a good pick. I like him as a late, sleeper guy. And you do it in a strong room like this. Like, we were very strong at running back, and we just tack on a guy at the end there. If it's value, if it's a 0, we're not hurt. Like, our running backs are fine. And if
with Hunter there,
Yeah, and if he hits, great, so it's just like a gravy pick. I love that kind of pick. But yeah, so the thing I was going to say is the buys, very important for all these other formats. Eliminator, not as much because so many teams get eliminated by then, but you don't want to, be too weak in like marathon. For sure, weekly winners, the buys are very important. So that's important. But even in regular tournaments, I mean, yeah, and I know we took only two quarterbacks here. Let's hope Lamar and Stroud don't have the same buy again. Yeah, and that's just
I
a
know.
risky run, but I like knowing that. I feel much better about two quarterback teams once I know the buys and can schedule around them. Because it's not just, and look, we didn't end up stacking a lot of Lamar, but that's the other thing that people don't realize when they take two quarterbacks with the same bye week. You're also losing those receivers that come with it, maybe the tight end, if you're double or triple stacking. So you might hit a bye week and you're losing, even if you took a third quarterback, you're losing your top two, and then you're losing, two of your top three receivers and a tight end on board, and then you're just
Ooh,
totally hurting and you can't make it up. And I know I had plenty of Lamar teams last year who, look, every quarterback's going to have a bye. I understand that, but you just want to make sure, like I had teams that were ready to go to the playoffs, and then I know Lamar, and because either I have an injured guy or whatever, I just didn't have good points, and that team didn't make it through. And so,
right.
it's something to always build around. I think some people undervalue the importance of balancing your bye weeks, because I look at it in the regular season, you can't necessarily advance in 1 week, but you can lose in 1 week. If
Sure.
you're have the 12th finish in a particular week, that's hard to come back from. You always want to stay in top half, is the way I look at it. It's the best way to ensure that you're advancing your teams.
I like that. I think that's some wisdom of being through a lot of tournaments and a lot of drafts. The buys are very important. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we focus so much on week 17, but you got to get there, and you got to avoid bottoming out and having such a low floor that you ruin your chance
Yeah,
to get your team through. We're going to be drafting another puppy, guys.
I
So
love it.
hold on tight. I'm going to let Steve review this one as much as you can see. We've got Lamar Jackson and Stroud. I'm going to scroll down just a bit and let
Yeah.
Steve go into it. I'm going to let my
Yeah.
dog out. I'll be back in 15 seconds. So,
Okay.
Steve, take it away.
So yeah, the two quarterback build, but we're starting with the elite. Lamar, get Stroud, who I think is going to have a bounce back year with the new offense coordinator, more depth along the offensive line, and just weapons who hopefully don't get injured. Running back very strong with Henry, Brown, Walker, and Mason in the top, essentially 100 picks. And so then we just tack on a guy late. We didn't have to take anyone before that. But I think that's a very strong running back room. Most weeks we can probably get 3 scores, and I think that's one of the best ways to, just have the most total points. And our receivers seem a little weaker, but we got Nico, Pickens, Burden, Mooney, Kyle Williams, Jalen Knoll. I'm slipping on the last couple guys. I know Calvin Austin was the last one, but we went with some extra depth there. And yeah, I just think this team is structurally able to compete in every area: tight end, receiver, running back, and definitely quarterback with Lamar. So that to me is the best way you advance. It's the best way you get the spike weeks in the playoffs, and potentially, obviously, in the finals if we can make it that far. And yeah, I felt really, really good about this team overall, and enjoyed everyone drafting with us. I know we got sniped a few times, and I'm sure we sniped a few guys. For everyone else. But yeah, very, very fun draft.
Perfect timing. Well said. I was listening as I let my little dog out, and it was a fun one. This is a different team for me. I think, we've done back-to-back drafts, and we're a little bit rookie heavy, but who knows where these ADPs settle? And I think a lot of the guys we're expecting to climb up throughout the summer.
Yeah.
These guys are going to get the rookie mini camp in, they're going to get in the training camp, they're going to get in all these other little events throughout the summer. I feel confident that most of the rookie names we're taking, They might not pay off. You never know what happens during the season, but I feel confident that their ADP can continue to rise. So we're aiming for getting some closing line value, that is drafting a player today that is going to continue to rise. Maybe Jalen Knowles is around, around pick 130 or 120 in a month or two. Who knows?
Yeah, and Kyle Williams, if we get to preseason and Kyle Williams is the clear starting wide receiver opposite Stephon Diggs, yeah, I mean, he's, I think, going in the top 100. It's just people have some uncertainty there. And same with Burden. Like we've talked about all along, the Bears' uncertainty. But boy, if we start seeing good coach speak and usage, Burden's going to rise. So, no, I'm with you. Like you take these upside plays. But also, like we did it structurally, like we have the anchor receiver, Nico. Pickens, who we know has the upside. We took Mooney, as like you said, he's so explosive, but he's just such a good receiver. And so, yeah, we have all these upside plays around him. But the other reason it works is because our running backs are so strong. Most weeks, our flex is probably coming from the running back, and that's exactly what you want. Running backs score more points than wide receivers. So we're getting that. We actually, most weeks, are probably only going to need 3 receivers to hit the lineup. And Nico's probably taking one of those spots. So we only need 2 out of all these guys. And, and sure, if one outscores the running backs, fantastic. But we don't need to count on it.
No doubt. No doubt. That was a fun draft. I want to answer a question I'm seeing in the chat from B-Dog. And so, we're going to take a little pivot here before we get into this next draft. But one thing I like to have in our community here at the Fantasy Football Garage, and I just know that all of the guys in the chat are super sharp drafters. I mean, to say the least, right? So we can come together, we can answer some of these questions. It's a dynasty question, so let's pivot our thinking from best ball to dynasty. But B-Dog, appreciate you being here. Let's see. Chat, let's help him out. If you haven't already answered it, let's see what we can do for B-Dog here. Would you trade Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Waddle, and a future third and a future second, which is pretty far out there, for Amon-Ra, St. Brown, J.J. McCarthy, and a 2026 first rounder?
So for me, it's always tough with these questions because a couple things matter. Like, is this full PPR? Is this super flex? Is it normal quarterback scoring? Also, like, what does your team need? Because, if you have another good quarterback above Mahomes, or are you kind of punting this year, and so you want the younger guy in McCarthy, then that adds extra value. But just from a raw value perspective, I would take the Amon-Ra JJ first rounder side of it. Amon-Ra is the best receiver in this, best single player, I think, in this trade, especially assuming if it's full PPR. And that first rounder is, even if that's the 12th pick, it's probably worth the second and the third, So, and you can always trade it back and get more picks. And if it's not the 12th pick, it's going to be worth way more than a second and a third.
I couldn't have said it better myself. We're all preparing for our rookie drafts. It's a fun part of the dynasty season right now as well. We're early in best ball summer. So B-Dog, thanks for the question. Thanks for being here in the chat. We're going to jump back into another best ball draft. We're going to do a 20-second puppy this time. Get through it a little bit quicker. We're getting into the later hours. Again, appreciate Steve for being here. And let's give a little shout out here again. Boop. To the FanSpeak Network. Guys, FanSpeak, where Steve puts in the work along with Meg and all of the other creators that they work with. They have a best ball subscription that's come out. And if you've been listening, if you're here, and I know you've already put 2 and 2 together, a lot of sharp content, really good stuff. I mean, that dynasty answer alone, just imagine what you can get out of the FanSpeak Network, out of their content, the articles they're putting out, their YouTube shows. You're going to want to be involved. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the link in the description and make sure you're subscribed to this channel as well. Let's get into another draft, guys. Let's do it.
Let's go.
It's Thursday night. We're gonna rip drafts. We're getting ready for the weekend.
Exactly.
You got any particular plans going on this weekend, Steve?
Well, this is my dynasty draft tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, so really excited for that.
2 more, 1 more. It filled pretty quick, guys. I hope you got in there. I hope I didn't throw you off. It's a 20-second puppy this time. We're going to increase the speed. We're going to run through this one. And I just realized I wasn't sharing the screen, so I apologize. I had already entered it, guys. Whoops. But I hope you got in based on my voice. I see, looks like Dale got in.
Nice.
Green Bean's in here. Lolsimo. Okay. Ant Wall made it in.
Yeah,
Anthony.
we got people.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry I faked you out there, but got to show love for Steve being here. You know, it's been a long draft stream, and he's given out so much good content. You owe it to him to check out the FanSpeak Network and just go see what they're about. You know, if you haven't already gotten involved, do it. It's going to be a good time. And we're going to be here all summer. You know, Steve is a welcome guest anytime on the channel, along with Meg. Like I said,
we're going to have you on also. Chris? You're always in our chats. We love it. We love the comments, love the questions, and we're going to be ripping drafts all year as well. So yeah, we'll be doing plenty of cross streams back and forth for sure.
No doubt. And guys, my schedule on my stream that I've got going on right now, it's pretty much most nights. I think I'm going to hit 1 week straight of streams, which is my longest streak that I think I've ever done. So I'm going to keep it going. We're just going to keep streaming drafts. Best Ball Mania 6 is here. We've done all other types of tournaments. We've done pre-draft streams with Cody from Off the Schneid. Would you take Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb? It's been kind of more contentious lately. People like Lamb, people like Jefferson. What do you like, Steve?
Let's go Lamb. I know with Pickens, in general, at this pick, I will probably take Jefferson more.
Okay.
But I just love Lamb's upside. And while we've talked about J.J. McCarthy, and I'm bullish for him in the dynasty trade, bullish for him overall, we are talking about a guy who is coming off an injury. He only threw, well, I don't agree with the assessment. He never threw in college and wasn't a part of Michigan's success. He only had, I think, 2 300-yard games in college. I do love Kevin O'Connell. I love this offense. We've seen Nick Mullins have success in it. We've seen Josh Dobbs have success in it. But I could see them throwing the ball a little less this year. Their defense has gotten better. The run game should be better with Mason and the better O-line. So they might, maybe they lose 10% passing attempts this year. And that would impact Jefferson. So that kind of is it for me. But it's so close. Jefferson is, to me, still the best pound-for-pound receiver in the league. Sure. Obviously, Chase has the best quarterback, and he's probably number 2. And then Lamb's right there as well.
It's a good way of putting it. I don't want to miss out on any of the top 3 receivers.
Yeah, no, I'm taking them all.
Yeah, I recently, I think I had it Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Barkley. I recently put Barkley back in front of Lamb, but it's just because I wasn't getting any Barkley out of the 4 spot, and I didn't want to be, lately during the big board, I've kind of gone back and forth. Things are moving. Yeah. I'm trying to stay tied to the ADP, and then small steps in and out of line with the ADP in the first or second round. I don't want to be in a position like I was last season, where I had in Best Ball Mania last year, I had 59 Nico Collins teams, and it looked good for a minute, and then the hamstring, and then I had 59 teams that were putting up zeros from my first or second pick. A lot of times I was getting Nico in the second round though, which was nice, but I was taking him in the first round last season.
Yeah, I had like 20% Nico.
Love it.
So I absolutely loved it.
Jacobs.
I actually lean Jacobs. I think there's
or
just
even.
I'm more bullish for the running back.
Yes.
We kind of had this talk earlier about McBride. I just feel
Bucky.
Bucky or Jacobs. It's a coin flip for me.
I think Jacobs makes it around more often. I know we've got Green Bean and Lolsimo, and they're in here with us. We'll see. Who knows? But I have seen Jacobs dropping. I've seen him go around 30
is
before.
more likely to fall.
I'm pretty sure it was 2 nights ago on a stream. I got Jacobs at pick 30, and I was really excited about it. It might have been last night, actually.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think Jacobs is such a smash play. You know,
You know what I think it was? I think last night, I'm pretty sure I started off Gibbs, Bowers, Jacobs. It was really different.
Yeah, that is very unique.
I'm kind of interested to go Garrett Wilson here. Do you have any takes against him?
Not necessarily against him. It's just I definitely like Wilson over Hill. I'm much lower in Hill. I normally would probably take Marvin there. I'm just bullish for a second-year breakout.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is, like, Fields, I like Fields fantasy-wise, but he's not necessarily a guy you have to like stack. And I just don't know if the ceiling outcome for Wilson, even though he's the only receiver on that team of any credit, I just don't know if you're going to get a lot of ceiling games from him, just like 25, 30-point games. Like, you'll probably get a lot of like 17 to 20-point games, but I just don't know if you're getting those like elite, 10 catch, 130, 2 touchdown type games.
It was week 2 last season. When Marvin Harrison put up, was it 3 touchdowns or was it 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I think it might have been 3. Yeah. Monster game.
Sorry about that. There's a thunderstorm and my dog just decided she's not for it. She's fading thunderstorms. I'll go see. I'll be back to make the pick. Let me go see if I can comfort her a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So, no, and I think he was talking about Marvin Harrison game. This is a weird area, which is why I love when Jacobs comes back, because it is a weird area at receivers. You're just speculating on some uncertain situations, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Marv, whether it's even JSN with the new offense coordinator, new quarterback. How's it all go? The Tyreek stuff, we just don't know what's going on there. A lot of times I'll even pull up Devontae, just because I feel better about Devontae than some of these other guys. But yeah, no, it's a weird receiver area in that early third. 3 quarterbacks go off the board in quick succession in the middle there. I was hoping one would maybe come back to us.
Yeah. Pick 46. I mean, I've got DK aggressively ranked.
I'm good with DK or Jameson Williams.
Let's take Jameson Williams, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I like that. Devontae's not a bad pick either, and Hurts is there. Would you consider?
I just don't know if we can count on Hurts coming back.
Yeah.
Just Hurts is a guy I don't mind taking unstacked, and if I get Goddard later, great. If not, and also I don't mind taking like Hurts and Saquon. And the Green Bean got Saquon, so that's definitely one I'm always bullish on. So that was the only reason. Losimo gets the perfect stack, but I like, we talked about him at the start. Jameson Williams, such a big upside play. So yeah, who are you liking here? I'm on the board. So I can't. Oh, DK, yeah. DK.
I still think it could be DK unless we want Mixon just to get some more running back depth.
No, I'm good with DK here. I think it's good to be aggressive on his ADP right now after the trade, opening things up, because let's say Rodgers goes there or they trade for Cousins, his ADP will go only higher. And the other thing I mentioned on my stream earlier is
I'm listening.
Even if Cousins and Rodgers don't work out, maybe Jameson Winston gets traded there. The Giants definitely don't need Winston anymore, with Russ keeping the seat warm and then going to Jackson Dart. Jameis Winston could end up going to a trade here for Pittsburgh in that kind of where Rodgers doesn't go there, and they can't work out a deal for Cousins.
What was that last part about Cousins?
Just to me, the Steelers, I don't think they're going. I think Rodgers is the number one. My guess is like Cousins or something. I don't think they're going with Will Howard or what's his name?
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. Yeah. So,
I'm curious. They are a very interesting organization, the Steelers. I'm curious if they would go with Rudolph and Will Howard, because Will Howard, he played, I think, if not 4 years at Kansas State, it was 3, and then the last year at Ohio State, I think it was 4 and a 5th, though, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they might just do it, and they might kind of, who knows, but they could be in a position of strength where they're like, hey, Aaron Rodgers, we don't need you, but if you want to come, fit in line and make this work, then we'd like to, have you. Obviously, he's a multi-time winning NFL MVP quarterback. Last season, in some instances, Rodgers still had some juice. So
yeah, he threw like 28 touchdowns. I mean, it's
more of touchdowns.
Yeah. So no, I think Rodgers is their 1A plan for sure. I think Rudolph is the ultimate break glass in case of emergency. And look, Mike Tomlin has found a way to win with Duck Hodges, the Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett year. Like, he's found ways to win. But
that's kind of what I'm getting at, is why they might just cobble together a really, really unexpected quarterback room. I'm probably influenced by like what you just said, is that they've done it before. We're on the clock. We got 20 seconds.
I think
we probably want to pivot to running back, right? And there's Connor, Judkins, or we could take Golden in my ranks. What do you feel strongly about?
I'd go Connor. Judkins, I like him as a prospect. It's a little bit more crowded of a room, but it's that offense could just be real bad.
I agree. I think Judkins can catch a ball or two. James Conner has already proven that he's got everything. He's got the vote of confidence. He's been there, done that. I think the Cardinals seem to really like him. I don't think Trey Benson's any good, so I don't think there's any risk that Connor loses work. It's more about an injury concern. And then with Judkins, his ceiling might be somewhat capped if they're willing to give Jerome Ford or even Dylan Sampson a little bit of that running back work, and then maybe even some of those high value receptions that Judkins might not take on immediately.
Yeah, no, exactly. Kevin Stefanski, even with Nick Chubb, it was Kareem Hunt eating into that.
It was a 1-2 punch. We're back on the clock.
Yeah.
I don't think Mahomes is the answer here. We could do David Montgomery or Pollard. And then receiver-wise,
bringing up Caleb Johnson, I like him for a bullish case.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I like David Montgomery. I'm always a big fan. But Caleb Johnson, I just think he is the perfect scheme fit for Arthur Smith's offense. Steelers' offensive line, I think, will be a lot better this year. They were missing a lot of starters last year, especially down the stretch. Like, people talked about, like, the collapse last year. Some of it was George Pickens. Some of it was just a massively tough schedule. They played like the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs in like a 14-game window or 14-day window. But they were also really hurt along the offensive line down the stretch. And, they lose Dan Moore. But other than that offensive line has a lot of young guys, a lot of upside. I think Arthur Smith could get that thing going.
And then again, we just took DK Metcalf. We're taking Caleb Johnson. It's a bet on the Steelers. It's always a little bit sketchy when you start to build a best ball team around a best ball draft around a team that doesn't have, like we just mentioned, that quarterback. We've said it. Is it Rodgers? Is it Mason Rudolph plus Will Howard? You lose some of the ability to maybe stack your way out, but these skill position players are good value where they're going. And you mentioned all those reasons why the Steelers should be looking up, the offensive line being in a little bit better position going into this next season. So I'm not afraid to take Steelers. I think there's other teams that I am more afraid to take players from. Who are some of those teams that you're maybe slightly fading on average?
I don't know if there's any one team. There's definitely certain players from teams where I just don't think the price is right. I'm Saints. Chris
Yes.
Olave is a
I was going
little
to say the
bit.
Saints.
I don't mind Kamara, but
Right.
Olave I worry about between the injury and a total unknown at quarterback. I don't mind Shaheed, even though he's coming off the injury, but that's a team that I just have a tough time. Giants, as long as the price is right. So right now, Neighbors, yes. Scattaboo, where he's going, yes. And Slayton, yes. And Theo Johnson, yes, because they're going so late. But any of those guys, like if Scattaboo goes up to the 70s, I'm going to start to be out. And I'm one of the biggest, stands on Scattaboo that there is. But it's just, I need the price to be right for these kind of guys.
That makes sense to me. Unfortunately, we didn't take Marvin Harrison, so we can go Murray, unstacked or not. I would think we skip and wait for Fields.
Yeah.
And then do you want to go Higgins or Harris?
I go Higgins here.
Yes.
But it's honestly very close for me.
Right.
But yeah, I go Higgins here. But I like Harris a lot also. I think he's a perfect complement to Lad McConkey.
Definitely.
So as for other teams, Browns are probably the one that I'm questioning the most, just because
you mentioned that with your slight interest in taking James Conner over Quinshawn, I think kind of reflects that.
Yeah, like overall, I like Judy as a player, but I just don't know who's going to be throwing the ball in the fantasy playoffs. It's another one early on. Give me Judy like in an eliminator format because I trust Joe Flacco to get on the ball. But if it's Shador or Pickett or Dylan Gabriel, I'm not thrilled about that. But yeah, I love Fields here with this pick.
So a partial reason that I took Garrett Wilson ahead of Marvin Harrison was not necessarily because I prefer Garrett Wilson to Marvin Harrison 1-for-1 at ADP right now, but I have noticed that I'm really wanting to get a lot of Justin Fields exposure before he continues to rise. I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Fields goes ahead of even Patrick Mahomes at the end of this, if they're saying, hey, we're starting Justin Fields, he's the quarterback, there's no one's going to take his role over. Like, could you, based on what we saw from Fields a few seasons ago, the 1,000 rushing yards, the sky is the limit, right? With his ADP, he easily could be undervalued in round 9. I think a lot of us are talking about that lately.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I do feel Fields, as we've always seen, he's just the ultimate spike week guy. Even last year, in 16 with the Steelers, he had a week where he finishes QB1, but he also had weeks where he finishes like QB 27. It's just you just don't get the consistency level. So I like him definitely with it. Maybe if I've taken an elite already and then having Fields and then just feeling really good about that, or in 3 quarterback builds. But no, I'm very bullish on Fields. I think in total fantasy points. And so for things like the marathon, I think he's going to be a little better in, or even the sprint, because if he gives you 1 or 2 spike weeks during the playoffs, and then you have another quarterback cover the other week, it could be really fun. But yeah, I love Fields in this area, and even a round, or like you said, even 2 rounds higher, I probably wouldn't mind him.
Nice. When you are building out your Fields teams, does that mean you're thinking more of a 3 QB build just to even out those peaks and valleys?
Absolutely. I think it's very important for a guy like Fields. And also he's gotten injured a lot. He got injured multiple years with the Bears. Missing a couple games, but it made Tyson Badgett a thing for a few weeks. So yeah, I just think it's something to consider. But I love the upside you get with Fields. Yeah. I was hoping maybe Goff, but that didn't happen. But I like
Tootin. We got very limited time. Do you think
let's do Tootin? I'm good with that. And then I think that's a good 4th running back. We can kind of wait till the very end if we take a 5th. There was nothing. Loveland was already gone. Nothing was sticking out at tight end. Had we gone Harris, obviously Herbert would have been there. We could have done. That would be where I'm targeting. Yeah. May, if they don't go take him here. Kyle Williams just went, so I think Losimo's taking him. Yeah. So I don't mind Betch or even Mims. It's not a quarterback that stands out. I think we probably just double tap quarterback maybe in the next area.
Any running backs? Would you go Ramondre or Spears over these guys that are kind of maybe thinner?
No,
Okay.
I would take receiver just from a structural standpoint. We have 4 running backs already. We don't. I mean, I think take a 5th. I don't think we need to take a Ramondre here. I mean, it's great value. Don't get me wrong, but I like Ramondre in this area.
I'm kind of surprised the little QB run we just saw. And then
you kept going.
It just clicked. It just clicked. We should have taken Prescott.
Oh, I didn't even think.
Yeah. I know. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was like, something doesn't feel right. Dang.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, we let Prescott fall on a CeeDee Lamb team. We did forget. It's a 20-second clock. You got to be on your toes. It's getting late. It's getting late on the East Coast. It's getting late in the Central Time Zone. That's a mistake. But at the end of the day, we'll recover. And you know, ideally, you want Dak Prescott there, you know, going forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. In my head, I was thinking the JMO Goff stack, and I saw that got taken, and then
I was too. I don't know why I was so fixated on Jared Goff that I was like, oh, we missed our quarterback. Let's just roll with more skill position. We take Marvin Mims over Dak Prescott. That's a rookie mistake. We're slipping in this late hour. But it's always a fun draft. It's a puppy. You know, we'll roll with it. If it was a best ball mania, I would have been kicking myself to not get a Dak stack there.
Yeah, no, that fell nicely.
It's a pick and stack. It's a nice new pick and stack with Mahomes. Why not?
Oh,
why not? Yeah. So you saw our first bad pick of the night. It took 3 drafts into the 11th round, well past midnight on the East Coast, for Steve and I to make a single bad pick. We've been flawless, and we can recover. We'll still do just fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
We'll do fine. But I think it's pretty funny because we're just laughing about it. It's like we're going to kick ourselves over that pick. But, man, that's how it goes. The 20-second clocks. I love doing the 20-second clocks. It's like training for the 30-second clocks, and then you get to the 30-second, and everything is smooth. But when you jump back to a 20, there's a little bit of a learning curve again, right?
Oh, for sure. And you know, just trying to talk, and obviously you're running the stream and everything. So yeah, it can be a lot. Could I look at our running backs real quick?
Yeah, our running backs, we've got Bucky, Connor, Caleb Tootin.
Yeah. I don't think we need to go running back. We don't have a good stack option. We could look to.
Would you go Penix or no?
I'm fine with that, or Goddard.
Let's do Goddard, and we'll figure out quarterback. The only thing I thought about was like maybe going Penix Pitts, but that's such a thin bet to get it all to line up. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. And you have him higher also. I'm the exact same. Bryce Young is who I'd want to pull up.
Yeah.
So there's backstack options. He also runs. Like, he had 6 rushing touchdowns last year, played only 10 or 11 games. So he gives another nice option, nice pair with Justin Fields. So I'd pull up Bryce Young here.
Let's go ahead and do it. Before it gets too late, we're on the left side of the board.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're in the middle, like, we could wait, but
I think this is fair. The upside with Bryce Young is very similar in a way to Penix. Bryce Young is more, I would say, actually, Bryce Young is more proven. But he's had some bad games. But Penix is kind of a black box. We like Penix, but not in this build is kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like, if we had a Mooney already, or even Bijan, and just kind of get all that offense, and in London, of course, I'd be saying Penix, but Bryce Young, he has more rushing ability. So even if we don't get a good stack, but there are still backstack options. There's multiple receivers. There's Jatavian Sanders. There's ways we can still get a guy with price.
Let's take a look at Green Bean's team. He says he made a mistake. I know he's got. Well, we had the choice of Justin Jefferson, so he doesn't have Justin Jefferson. He has Saquon, Rice, Calvin. So then he didn't take. He forgot to go.
Because Love went a couple picks after him. Oh no, he took Kraft, so he kind of already knew that. Maybe he meant
You know what it was is
Herbert.
he should have taken Cam Ward, I guess, and instead he took McCarthy.
Oh,
because he got Herbert with Trey Harris, which is nice, fine, and he should have gotten. He could have gone Tucker Kraft and Love to go with his golden.
Yeah, I mean, either.
And Josh Jacobs.
So,
Green Bean. You should have taken the Green Bay Packers, Green Bean. That's all right. It's a puppy. This is a good warm up. You know what I found myself doing? I wanted to ask you too. How many best ball manias have you fired off so far?
4 or 5. 4 done, and I have 1 slow going.
So I've actually done 13 already. And the only reason why I had to check, I wasn't sure if it was 12 or 13. The only reason why is because I get into this kind of flow state where I've done a few drafts and I say, I'm crushing these drafts. I need to go into best ball mania and prove that I can make it work. And like, I am a little bit overconfident right now, but like probably 75% of the time I'm getting to these best ball manias and I'm just nailing the drafts. And so my edge right now is I'm in this state where I'm just living in these drafts. I'm going to do a few more, even though I have limited information. You know, I'm planning to max. So once I have the schedule, I'm going to hit it hard again. And I think I did 8 best ball manias in the first 48 hours, or about 7 or 8.
I think Thielen.
Anyway, should we grab Thielen here or Dowdle?
I think Thielen first for sure.
Of course.
And if Dowdle's there on the way back, we can, or there's tight ends. There's good tight ends right there. Strange, Henry, Freiermuth. I'm good.
Yep.
Gesicki. I have a very bullish case on Gesicki, as I mentioned earlier. Like, if the touchdowns just go his way, he could easily be a top 10 tight end.
What do you think about Mason Taylor, though? We have the stack. Is it forcing it? He's rising a little bit. It's somewhat early. We're on the turn. Would you rather get a veteran before we're going for Taylor in this situation? Because we only have 1 so far.
Yeah, let's get a veteran, because I'm fine with this being a 3 tight end build. And if Taylor comes back to us, we already have, Wilson with Fields. So I don't think like you have to overstack it. I don't
You're
mind.
thinking we should maybe go Freiermuth here and keep the Pitt player trend going over Dowdle.
I don't mind Gesicki just from a top 5 offense.
You want to do it? Gesicki instead?
Yeah, because like you said, we're already making a pretty big bet on Pitt, but at some point, unless that becomes a top 5 offense, you're going to start to get negative value of keep hitting guys there.
Very good point. Sometimes I forget about kind of the limit that you can reach around the available touchdowns and things. And today, some of the research I was doing has kind of helped me, and I'm still trying to look for those insights like that. You're able to pull that together, but I told you I'm going to flip back to the sheet. I brought in the team stats. So in a nutshell, we can see here, we've got the Falcons right here. I've got the fact that they had 21 passing touchdowns last season in 17 games, which is not a lot. And they ranked 20th in passing touchdowns. They were 22.9 points per game, which is actually ranks 13th in points per game. So I'm starting to give myself some bounds on what's possible and what's recently been accomplished by these teams, especially the ones who didn't change a whole lot. The Falcons, obviously a lot will change, but other teams like, maybe that we find more consistency with. And I start to say, okay, well, they only had 25 passing touchdowns. What are the odds that I want 3 receivers from that team? It's not high, but the Bengals with their 40 passing touchdowns and leading the league in passing touchdowns, the number 1 overall, that's a team you don't mind triple stacking, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, the same for the Bucks, because they had 40 some as well, and they could, like they're actually only going to be better this year. So yeah, I feel the same way. And those teams with the volume, like, Lamar threw 40 touchdowns, but Lamar could have an amazing year again and be down to 30 because their passing rate is nowhere near as high. They're not going to throw near as many passes. So his efficiency might just come down to, uh, elite levels and not godlike levels.
Yeah, man, I'm so in on Lamar.
Yeah.
I never was like out on Lamar, but how could you not be more in on him? It's tough because I think Josh Allen is also like very equally exciting, but he
Hmm.
just for some reason the cast around him. You could argue that you know James Cook had a great season for what it's worth, and it seems more exciting with the Ravens, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's just more elite or closer to elite talent. Like, I don't think Zay Flowers is elite, but he's better than any receiver the Bills have. Mark Andrews is obviously better than Dalton Kincaid, and even likely might be better than Dalton Kincaid. So it's just they both have a number of fun guys, but Ravens are just better. Even Henry versus Cook.
We've got
Yeah,
Mason Taylor past
Mason
ADP.
Taylor.
We've got the stack. Do you think we pull it off, or do you think it's too much for Fields?
No, I think we do it. I'm fine with that because, again, it's past ADP, and it is receiver and tight end. We saw Fields do this a couple years ago with the Bears. Both Moore and Kmet got there, so I'm totally fine with it.
We kind of
Question
need
is,
a running back at this point,
yeah,
don't
I
we?
was thinking running back.
Or
And
even, is there any last out at QB? I know it's late in the game, but is there any reason to take a Dart or any of these
um,
other guys?
the guy I would probably take is honestly Daniel Jones. Um,
I guess we don't have a way. I mean, not that he has to be stacked. You could always take Daniel Jones without a receiver because he has a rushing upside, and if he's linked to Indianapolis, there's always late options there. I just don't think we need another receiver necessarily, and
yeah,
we definitely need a running back. So maybe we go running back here.
let's
Well,
take a running back. Yeah, I I like Justice Hill. That'd probably be my pick.
I'm in. I like Justice Hill as well. I take him a few times.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite late round running back picks. Good floor play, can even do a little bit more. Not that we expect Henry to miss time, but yeah, just a good player. And I'm not worried about Keaton Mitchell. The only times he played really at all last year were when Hill had that concussion and missed a couple of games. Other than that, he was just a special team guy. I know it's another year removed from the injury, but they re-signed Hill last year. I think they believe in him. He's the clear number 2, I feel like.
The chat has been trying to sell me on Keaton Missile for about a month now. I took him once or twice in the big board, just for whatever. Maybe even it was a little board too. Who knows which draft it was? But I've been more of a fan of Hill. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's been a long time coming for Justice Hill.
exactly.
In the league, he had the injuries early on. But I remember him coming out of Oklahoma State, and he looked like he was pretty impressive, even though he's not the biggest guy, right?
Hmm. No, I agree. And I think he's just found his role. And again, it's attached to a great offense. So there's just extra touchdowns to go around.
Yes, that's a good point. When you're getting a late pick, you want to associate it with a team that can feed those fringe guys, the RB2s, the wide receiver 3s,
Yeah.
even some of the tight ends. Like you said, Gesicki, a great pick in this format
Mhm.
because of the way that the Bengals can just produce points, right? So
Yeah.
we want to have some exposure to that offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. So what are you thinking here? Like, um,
I kind of think it could be
for
a
a
quarterback
quarterback.
pick just for the safety and the upside, or the safety and the floor, I guess.
So, I mean, the way I look at it is you could take a Wilson or a Flacco for early season production. And this is a time where once we know buys, maybe that makes sense. Like if Justin Fields had week 5 bye and Bryce Young had like week 7, then I'd feel much better about like a Wilson or a Flacco who might play half the year. But if they have late buys, then I'm out on, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of out on those guys as the protection play.
And since we don't know it, I think we just go in with who we feel best about. Maybe it's Daniel Jones or
yeah, Daniel Jones or honestly Tyler Shuck. I think right now he's likely to be the starter. We don't have correlation, but honestly, it's just a floor play. If we really wanted, we could have done Aaron Rodgers, but I think he was off the board, or was he there?
I don't know if I've ranked him so low that he doesn't show up, or if he was probably taken already.
Yeah, I think he was taken.
So, because it's kind of a blessing in disguise that we didn't get Dak, because we did a very unique kind of cobbled together three quarterbacks, but a lot of rushing upside among these three.
Yeah, no, I agree, and like Daniel Jones, like go out to beat out A-Rich, and we'll see how that goes. I kind of sounds like he's got a real chance, and even without a stack, I don't mind a quarterback attached to Shane Steichen, especially with the little rushing upside.
No doubt. Yeah, another solid draft. And appreciate everyone in the chat drafting with us. It's been a great couple drafts we've done. Big shout out to Steve for coming on. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. I just wanted to repeat to everyone who's watching this now and in the future, check out the FanSpeak Network. Great people and great football knowledge. A lot of good content coming out. We're going to be drafting all summer. There's more of Chris and Steve doing some streams together.
Absolutely.
And a lot more to come. So make sure you guys are subscribed, and we'll catch you on the next one. Any last words, Steve?
No, this was a lot of fun. Had a great time, 3 fun drafts, and enjoyed everyone, with the chat and in the drafts with us. So good night to everyone. And yeah, a lot of fun.
See y'all real soon. Let's hit